A court of fairies and fiction. Akafath Girls Podcast. Hosts Mel and Liv. Season 2, Episode 4, Night, Day, Dusk.
I love this series. I feel like for some reason some of the magic has worn off for me because I don't know the later, but I still love Silver Flames. It was actually my favorite book. It was my favorite until recently, and recent events that have occurred with CC3 have made me change my feelings.
My ranking has changed every single time I've read the series. And see, I think what it boils down to for me is the amount of the book that I loved versus the amount of the book that I didn't like. Because after I read Silver Flames a few times, I was like, Silver Flames is my favorite. It's always going to be the top of the list, whatever. Yeah. And then I've been over ACOWAR a couple more times. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe ACOWAR is a little above Silver Flames. And then I reread book 1 again. And I'm like,
yes,
it's definitely book 1.
Yes.
And it's like, those 3 are my top 3, but I think if I absolutely had to rank them, it would be book 1 is first. Yes. Because I loved all of it. There's not a part of it that I hated. Whereas with ACOWAR, I hated the whole Spring Court bullshit when she was tearing down the Spring Court. And in ACOSF, you're going to hate me, but I hated the way that Cassian fucking acted, and I could not stand his scenes with Nesta, and I really only loved the Valkyries. So I loved half of ACOSF and 3/4 of ACOWAR, but I loved the whole of ACOTAR. So it would be ACOTAR, ACOWAR, ACOSF, and then obviously the other 2 are in the fucking garbage because I fucking hate them.
So. Yes, I love that you have put book 1 as your number 1, because book 1's actually my number 1. It was Silver Flames for the longest time. I'm very, I told you, we all know I'm mourning Cassie, and I'm very upset about CC3 in that bonus chapter. So it's gonna be ACOTAR, and then I actually have ACOWAR and Silver Flames tied in second place.
They're but I liked a little more of ACOWAR just because there's so much history and so much I don't know, there's just so much information that you can use in ACOWAR. I love the little details like that. It makes me giddy. So, but fucking Gwen. Gwen is my favorite character. So that's why I'm
you love Gwen. Because you are Gwen in real life.
Me. I fucking love Gwen.
Gwen's awesome. Gwen is you in a character, if I've ever read one. Literally you. So if I had to pick a ACOTAR character for you, it would be Gwen, because you're just really? you're sassy. You're not afraid when people come at you.
But meanwhile, I'm don't tell me I have to leave my house. When she's
Gwen doesn't want to leave.
She's oh God, I have to leave the library.
She's
put me in a library and I will never leave.
I know. No, you're Gwen. You are absolutely Gwen.
Tell me my very first best friend is a priestess who can't speak.
Perfect.
I'll do all the talking.
You're literally Gwen. I'm so
But
good.
do you know, okay, I have never actually heard that, but I have heard a ton of people tell me that I'm Aelin.
Really?
I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or an insult.
Well, considering that everybody loves Aelin, that's a compliment. I haven't read enough of her to say. I see you as Gwen. I don't know.
She
I don't
always
see you as
thinks
Aelin.
steps ahead, but also she's kind of a bitch.
I'm not saying you're a bitch. I just think you're very confident and you're not afraid to tell people your opinion. So, I mean, I guess I could see where they come from in that point. From that perspective.
Aelin is also a Taurus.
Is she? I could see that. I can identify that as in a fellow Taurus. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fire. I can see it.
Yeah, very fiery.
Very fiery.
Stubborn, headstrong.
I like it. I like that a lot. Who would you say I would be if you had to pick anybody? I love these. I want us to like do this in our group chat.
Or who? I feel like you're a mix of a lot of people. If I had to say so, I think you're Emery. Honestly, Emery.
Why would you say Emery?
Just because she is a lot like Gwen, but she's also like, I feel like she's very headstrong, but she also kind of just wants to like chill. She wants to be both at the same time. She is both at the same time. She's like, in the winter, I just stay in my house and I read my books or whatever. But then she's like, this is my fucking shop, bitch. You can tell yo daddy that if he wants a shop, he can get his own.
You know what's so funny is I love Emery, but for some reason she's not like a huge standout character for me. You know?
I love her. I do. I just feel like I need like more from her. Like I feel like we got a lot more Gwen just because she's gonna be Azriel's mate.
I love how you put that in. I love how you just had to sneak that in there.
Well, no, but it's true because like we even have the whole like he drops them off in the fucking middle and he's like, Gwen asked me to give her private dagger lessons, so I can't stay. I gotta go. He like goes off to give her private dagger lessons. So it's like there's like off-page Gwen and Azriel shit going down that we're never privy to, and I want it so badly. But like there's that stuff, but then we don't see like off-page Emery stuff. So we don't see a lot of like, you know, stuff involving her. I feel like we don't have her whole personality yet.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if she's actually going to build her up and build her into a bigger character because I feel like
though.
Why?
Because I really, 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 really do not want her with more. So bad. Like I will be so pissed off if she ends up with more.
I have to tell you, I 100% think she's gonna be with more. If there was,
it does not make sense to me because Emery's sense of like, I would say justice. Emery's sense of morality is very strong. As we see, like her father was awful. She saw how he treated her mother. Like she's just, I don't know. She's just a very morally strong character, I feel like. And like knowing what we know and like what more said about Nesta, what more wanted Nesta, like she wanted to dump her in Hewn City, like where she was abused, or to die in the Mortal Lands. And like she's still never apologized for any of that bullshit. Yeah, so I'm like, if you're gonna end up like there's no way that her character would actually end up with the person who was that fucking awful to her best friend. And if SJM does that, then she doesn't know her character. Period.
Sorry, I
feel like she's going to, but like Emery as a character would not do that. She just wouldn't. Unless she's just gonna keep it like a secret and like nobody talks about it. But like that bothered me too. Because Nesta's not gonna be like, oh, well, you know, she's a bitch or whatever. Because I feel like Nesta would be like, she's a bitch.
See, I don't know. I feel like Nesta would hold her tongue so that Emery like didn't feel bad about it. Like I would want her to be like, she's a bitch, don't date her. But I feel like Nesta would be like, I'll be your wing lady. Like I'll wing you.
Yeah, but like would she want her friend with someone that awful? Because she knows that Moore is a suspicious bitch.
I think she would want her friend to be happy, and like it would be like she can put that above her own personal feelings about Moore, which is unfortunate because like I want Emery with someone who, I mean, what I'm just the type of person
who would be like, you should not date them. They're a piece of shit. Like I would be that person to like straight up tell you they're a bad person.
But that's I don't trust them. That's a good friend, and that's what you should say to people. You know, you should be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Like Nesta would, like, her character would say that. And so if SJM's just going to be like, Nesta's going to be her wing woman, and Emery's going to get with more, and everyone's going to be one big happy family, like, that would not fucking happen.
I know. Unless like we said, SJM just comes in and she's gonna be bringing, like she did in this last book, random ass characters, and then like made them off. Like it might not even, Emery might be with someone we don't even know. Same with Elaine, same with same like,
Well, Gwen was brought in for Az. She was already a new character for Az. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I kind of am starting to get on the ship because I was a Gwynriel and I am still for a long time.
You didn't see the whole thing that I wrote for Gwynriel. I got so many DMs for that with people going, "Oh my God, I didn't even think of that." And like I did all.
Wait, where was it?
It was a couple days ago on my story.
No, I read the first. It was the one with the clouds, right? It had a cloud backdrop.
It was a blue backdrop, but then there was another one with a pink and purple backdrop.
Yeah,
which was like paragraphs.
It was the pink and purple one that I was reading. That's what I read. Okay. So wait a second. Then can I still see the blue one or no? Is it off now? Because the story.
I think I put it under my Gwynriel highlight.
Okay, I'll go back and read it.
But
yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I actually think that Az might end up being mates with Rhys's sister too. Like really? I'm like waffling.
Oh, Rhys's sister.
I think it could be a possibility. Like if she's gonna go down the Tamlin, like killing Tamlin off route, which is gonna be very, very upsetting to me. I could see her making Azriel Rhys's mate, possibly. Because he's the one that brings her up in CC3. Like he's always kind of like talking about her, like a little bit. Like you don't really see Cassian talking about.
Well, so
it's Azriel.
I feel like she made Azriel bring her up because Rhys would have said her name, and I think Azriel, as a character, he kind of has a sixth sense. He knows all their secrets. He's the spy master. So I feel like with him being in the company of a stranger, he wouldn't let information like that slip. And that's why he's like, oh, she looks like Rhys-Ann's sister. He wasn't going to say her name. And that's why I think she had Azriel bring her up, because Cassian wasn't even really in this book. So it was between him and Rhys technically would have said her name. He wouldn't be like, oh, my sister, again for the 50 millionth time. So she had to have it be Azriel. Because Azriel was there at the time. It was just him and Nesta. And Nesta wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I found
it,
I also find it weird that like she picked Nesta and Azriel to focus in CC3. I don't know. Like it was like they're not a weird pairing, but it was kind of weird that she picked those two, right?
No, I really loved part of Akasif that I really loved was their friendship, and I wanted a lot more of their friendship. So I was actually I was really happy that we got that in CC3. Especially after the whole like not dining room table, like kitchen table scene when they're just like sitting across from each other, just assessing each other. And it was like there was like a mutual understanding of power or whatever the quote was. And I was like, they get each other. I like this.
Yeah, but I also like when Azriel, or like when it was, I forgot whose POV, but like, it was like that Nesta never balked away from him. Like she was not afraid of him or whatever.
Yeah.
And I loved when they were exchanging gifts and like Nesta like gave him the hug. It was, and he like kind of was like taken aback by it, but like didn't hate it. I know.
See? And that's why the hug in CC3 is not weird, because they have hugged before. Everyone's like, Azriel isn't a touchy-feely person. First of all, how do you know that? Just because people don't hug him? Nesta hugged him and he was like, oh, someone's hugging me.
Like, well, he was like a little taken aback by it. Like,
because nobody hugs him. Give my baby some love. He needs it. The only person who hugs him is his mom, who he sees like, I don't know, periodically, I guess we can guess. But
I do love Azriel's character. Yeah. I'm really excited about his book. But
yeah. Do you remember in both Akamath and Akawar, there are, I want to say that there's 3, but there might solidly be 2. There's scenes when they're talking about Azriel's job, and I forget who it is, but I think it might be Cassian and Rhys. But they're talking about Azriel's job, and they're talking about when he takes, not really hostages, but when he takes prisoners down to the dungeon to convince to speak, so to say. And they are like, he always leaves 2 of them alive so he can bounce them off one of each other to see who's lying. And so I think it was Rhys and Cassian, and I don't know who said it in which book, but someone says it in Akamath and someone says it in Akawar, and I'm pretty sure someone says it in Akasith, but it might have been twice in Akawar. But anyways, oh no, it was definitely Akasith. It was Akasith. Someone says it too, where it was after the soldiers, Eris's soldiers, when he takes, or whatever. And so they're like, he always leaves 2 of them alive to bounce them off each other to see like who planned the coup or whatever it was. I don't know the exact quote, but they do say he always leaves 2 prisoners alive. He always at least takes 2. So if you remember when they're talking about the attack at Sangrava and Azriel showing up.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're going with this.
And yeah. And so Azriel follows his instincts, whatever, is looking through the temple, finds Gwen in the kitchen, pinned down to the table, obviously being assaulted. And she literally says, Azriel slaughters them all within minutes. All. He took no prisoners. Yeah. Which is super out of character for Azriel. So not only did he and his shadows found the kitchen in Sangrava, wherever Sangrava is, because it's not even in the Night Court. I know. Mind you. So his shadows had to tell him, there's priestesses being attacked at this temple. You need to go and save them or whatever. Because we know that the Night Court temple is Sisir. They've talked about Sisir a bunch of times and how it's, a part of the Night Court's northernmost territory, or I think they said northernmost territory or whatever. But they never say where Sangrava is. And I will say that I still think Sangrava is an Autumn Court temple because Lucien notices the rug that is in whatever, and Lucien mentions in Akawar to Feyre that because he was the 7th son, he got to train and he got to travel around and learn his people, like talk to his people, all of the different types of people in the Autumn Court. So I think he did, oh, I should check out one of our temple or whatever, So Azrael's shadows had to tell him that there's an attack there. Him and Mor go there. And I find it funny that she retconned that both him and Mor were there. Because Azriel had to be there, right?
Yeah. So how did she retcon that though?
Well, Mor didn't know in Akamath.
Okay.
Because Rhys says, oh, Azriel told me that the temples were sacked or whatever, and Mor looked surprised, or like Mor looked over to Azriel or something, like she looked shocked or whatever. And then in Akasith, it's like, oh, Mor went with him and all of this stuff. Because she was doing the thing where she's trying to throw us off, where like, are Mor and Azriel the rejected mates? And all of this stuff. So I see where you're going with this, SJM. I see what you're doing.
They still might be.
I see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But anyways, they get to this giant temple, and he is somehow led to the kitchen where Gwen is, sees one look of her being fucking raped, right? Slaughters them all in seconds. All of them. All of them. Doesn't keep one, doesn't keep 2 to ask who sent them, why they were sent, kills them all.
Yeah.
And then, which someone on Instagram pointed out, and I don't know why I never thought of this, but he found a cloak and draped it over her and then carried her over to Moor. First of all, Gwen let him carry her over to Moor. She didn't mention being scared of him at all. So automatically, it's odd that there's a sense of safety there, that she allowed him to carry her over to Moor. But also, where else do we see someone getting a coat draped over them, except Lucien draping his coat over Elaine after he found out they were mates?
Damn, you guys are really pulling some parallel strings there, because I personally, I mean, the cloaks are, I don't think that him carrying her, like, that sense of safety, in my opinion, I'm like, I think that means nothing. I mean, she was just being raped. So I think, like, anyone besides that person, I'd be like,
you would think that she would be uncomfortable with another guy touching her. And he would just be like, oh, Moor, come over here and whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that he scooped her up,
and picked her up. And he's not like one to carry. Well, I guess he carried Briar when they were getting out.
Well, they kind of had to escape.
Oh no, he carried Elaine.
He carried Elaine and Briar. He carried both of them.
He was carrying both.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
But they were being attacked by like beasts and stuff. Like Azriel had already killed all of the soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like the cloak comparison. I didn't even think about that. Like, is that like SJM's like secret mate thing, is like wrapping the cloak around your mate? I don't know. Interesting. That's very interesting. See, I don't want to put too much stock into anything.
I mean, I guess Phazand and Nessian's was abuse, and then Elaine's and Gwynriel's is like a sweet little coat.
Savage, you're so savage.
Just saying.
I love it.
Phazand's and Nessian's was like sex, and Gwynriel's and Elucien's were like a nice little cloak over them to protect
emotional. They're more of an emotional connection. I think people are going to come after me and be like, Phazand's an emotional connection. I don't know if I would really say they're more of like the power, like, I'm going to crush this person smite my enemies. And
because it's funny because Azriel and Lucien are a lot more alike than they would ever admit to.
They are very
much alike.
Yeah, very much alike.
So the fact that Azriel basically found his mate on her worst day being traumatized, Elaine finding her mate on her worst day being traumatized, both of the males putting the cloaks over them and like holding them.
No, I know. I like how you stated that. How those women in their most traumatizing days, and this is who is there, and this is.
And see, and what did she do here? Do you see what she did here?
I see nothing that she did besides cause everyone in the fandom a problem. What did she do? Enlighten me.
So Gwen's been in the library for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, of course we don't know because we haven't exactly been in Gwen's head as much as Elaine's and whatever. I feel like Gwen probably felt the bond after he killed those soldiers. But obviously she was traumatized. She couldn't deal with it, which is just like Elaine. She's traumatized. She doesn't want to deal with it. It's been a while, right? She still doesn't really want to see Lucien. And I feel like even though Azriel hasn't physically he kind of has felt the bond. I know some people will come after me for saying that. I think he kind of has. But you have to remember that unless it's physically snapping or snapped, you're not going to know what it is if you've never had a mate. Because it could feel like, I feel like it would feel like anxiety.
Do you think so? Why?
I don't know.
Anxiety?
Like you can be drawn to someone and not have any idea why you're drawn to them. And I feel like Azriel probably, because he is that white knight character that we've said before, I feel like he's just like, okay, I'm too attached to her because I helped save her. And that's why he didn't want to like visit all the time and check up on her, because he probably felt like he was going to be overcrowding her, or she would just basically, by seeing him, get re-traumatized, until like obviously he saw her training with Nesta and he's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then we have like the whole thing where he makes a conscious decision to help Cassian train them. Because at first it was just Cassian, remember? And then he's like, oh, Azriel's gonna join us to help train you guys. And like, I want to know what sparked Azriel into being like, okay, maybe I should help train them. Because you can't really tell me it wasn't his shadows being like, we need to see her again. We need to see her again. Because look,
I love that you think that. I love that. I don't know if I agree, but
well, because look what they did in the bonus chapter. His shadows tell him everything. They told him the temples were being attacked, right? They tell him, you know, whatever. They're always whispering in his ears. Like even during Solstice, I think it was Nesta in Akathas maybe who noted like, in the shadows whispering in his ears and something like that. And so his shadows tell him everything. They whisper everything that's going on. They purposely did not warn him that she was in the training ring that night. He was caught off guard that she was there. And the minute he landed, what happened? His shadows ran over to Gwen and were dancing around her. And Gwen and Azriel was like shy. He was like, what the fuck are they doing? Because they've never done that before. He was caught off guard. They didn't tell him she was there. They're dancing in her breath because it was cold out. And how many times during this series has Azriel been described as cold? How many times?
Oh, that's his whole
cold,
thing.
Icy, frozen, you know, all the time. And so this is one of the things that tipped me off among all the other things, but this is another thing that tipped me off. It was cold out. They were dancing in her breath because it was cold out. And she's training, you know, she has leathers on, whatever. And he's like, it's cold out, like, whatever. And she's like, oh, after a while, you don't notice it. And I was like, I'm like, see? Hello, little Elsa. The cold never bothered you anyway.
Oh my god. I love it.
And then the shadows are still all excited, swarming around him, and he's like, calm the fuck down. Like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing me.
Go ahead.
And he's like, and the whole conversation is so mate coded because he's just like, it's a lie, obviously, but he's like, oh, I forgot something in the house. And she's like, did you now? And he's like, yeah, I forgot my favorite dagger. And she's like, a comfort to every growing child.
She's very sassy. I like it.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, I sleep with one under my pillow. She's like, yeah, comfort to every growing child. And he's like, and then in his monologue, he's like, what he didn't tell her is that he does actually sleep with a dagger under his pillow.
It's funny though, because I want to bring this up. And I'm a Gwynriel fan, I will say this, but I've noticed that Az tries to stay away from Gwen, like in my opinion, like he's like that, like he's like finding excuses to leave. Like, he didn't want to stay in the ring with her when he saw her down there initially.
That's not true.
No, it is.
That is not true.
Like,
I will pull it up.
I didn't know you were training. I'll let you go. Like, he like doesn't want to be around her.
No.
And I find
but no, I will pull it up right now. The actual conversation is him saying like, oh, I should, let you train or whatever. And she's like, or he's like, are you dismissing me? She like dismisses him.
That's what I mean. But that's what I mean is he was like kind of like prickly. Like, I would call it like, are you dismissing me? That was kind of like prickly of him. I was like, ooh, that kind of gave me the ick.
I think that was funny because
you didn't get the ick?
No, I think that was funny because all the females are like, Azriel. And I just find it fucking hilarious that his mate is like, have a nice night. And he's like, what? Hold on. I need to fucking find the whole thing because I
want him to, like, maybe he's just clouded by his infatuation of Elaine right now, but I want him to want to be more around Gwen because I don't see that. Like, I don't see the pining on his end.
This is my thing.
They're besties.
This is my thing with Azriel. I think, like I said, the White Knight syndrome. I think that he fully believes that him being drawn to her is because, I have to keep saving her. I have to, make her stronger. I have to blah, blah, blah. But his heart is like, I know she can do it herself. She's already proven that to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's like, okay, I need to take a step back and let her do it herself.
Yeah.
That's what that was. So he's been so vigilant about keeping away from Elaine as much as possible and had stayed up here to avoid her. He's been avoiding Elaine until tonight, apparently. Okay. Yeah. It was so funny. He aimed for the training pit, giving in to the need to work off the temptation, the rage and frustration, and writhing need. He found it already occupied. His shadows had not warned him. It says his shadows had not warned him. I fucking love it. They're like, fuck you. We want to see our mate, bitch.
Yeah.
It was too late to bank without appearing like he was running, so he landed in the ring a few feet from where Gwen practiced in the chill night, her sword glimmering like ice in the moonlight. She stopped mid-slice, whirling to face him. So first of all, she sensed him land. I'm sorry, I knew you were all going to the river house, so I don't think anyone would mind if I came up here, and it's fine. I came to retrieve something I forgot. The lie was smooth and cool as he knew his face was. His shadows peered over his wings at her. The young priestess smiled, and Azriel thought it might have been directed at his curious shadows. Again, she's the only one who treats his shadows like actual beings, too.
Yeah, yeah.
But she just hooked her coppery brown hair behind an arched ear. I was trying to cut the ribbon. She pointed with her sword at the white ribbon, which seemed to glow silver. Aren't you cold? His breath clouded in front of him. Gwen shrugged. Once you get moving, you stop noticing it. He nodded, silence falling. For a heartbeat, their gazes met. He blocked out the bloody memory that flashed, so at odds with the Gwen he saw before him now. See? It's the White Knight syndrome. Her head ducked as if remembering it too, that he'd been the one who'd found her that day at Sangava. Happy solstice, she said, as much a dismissal as it was a holiday blessing. He snorted. Are you kicking me out? It wasn't him.
He said, are you kicking me out?
Are you kicking me out? So he didn't want to leave. Gwen's teal eyes flashed with alarm. No, I mean, I don't mind sharing the ring. I know you like to be alone. But he likes to be with you more. Her mouth quirked to the side, crinkling, the freckles on her nose. Is that why you came up here? Sort of. I forgot something, he reminded her. At 2 a.m. She knows he lied. He's like, I'm so smooth. I'm the best liar. And she's like, at 2 a.m, bitch.
Calling him out. She does call him out.
See? Mate shit. Pure amusement glittered in her stare, better than the pain and grief he'd spied a moment before. So he offered her a crooked smile. I can't sleep without my favorite dagger, a comfort to every growing child. Elriel's lips twitched. He refrained from mentioning that he did indeed sleep with a dagger, many daggers, including one under his pillow. How was the party? Her breath curled in front of her mouth, and one of his shadows darted out to dance with it before twirling back to him like it heard some silent music. This is what reminds me of them dancing to his humming in the cave in the CC3 chapter. Only Gwen and Azriel. They hide from Elaine. And so we know from that bonus chapter that they're around and they're twirling and twining when they're content.
When they're happy and they're enjoying something.
And they're like, oh, fuck Elaine. They're like, you ain't for her, bitch. Like, I'm playing with our mate right now. Fine, he said, and realized a heartbeat later that it wasn't a socially acceptable answer. It was nice, he added. Not much better. So he asked, did you and the priestesses have a celebration? Yes, though the service was the main highlight. I see. She angled her head, hair shining like molten metal, which compares her to the autumn court. Thank you very much. Do you sing? He blinked. It wasn't every day that people took him by surprise. But why do you ask? They call you Shadow Singer. Is it because you sing? I am a shadow singer. It's not a title that someone made. She shrugged again irreverently. Do you, though? Sing?
She, like, doesn't care. She's like, whatever.
She challenges him, and he loves it. Az couldn't help his soft chuckle. Yes. She opened her mouth to ask more, but he didn't feel like explaining. Fucking SJM. Or demonstrating.
That was weird to me. That's weird to me. He, like, doesn't feel like explaining, doesn't want to linger, doesn't want to stay around. Like,
I feel like the shadow singing thing is like linked to his past. Like, we know that it's linked to his past because he didn't really have his shadows until he made friends with his shadows when he was in the dungeon as a little kid. Right. So Sarah's definitely keeping that whole backstory for his book. But I want to know. Or demonstrating, since that was surely what she'd ask next. I cannot wait for them to sing a duet. It's gonna be the cutest fucking thing ever.
It's gonna be so cheesy. I hope they don't.
I love cheesy mate shit. Stop it. I love it. Az jerked his chin to the sword dangling from her hand. Try cutting the ribbon again. With you watching. He nodded. She considered, and he wondered if she'd say no, but Gwen blew out a breath, steadied her feet and balanced, and sliced. A beautiful, precise blow, but it didn't sever the ribbon. Again, he ordered, rubbing his hands against the cold, grateful for its bracing bite and the distraction of this impromptu lesson. See, he was grateful that she was there. Gwen sliced again, but the ribbon remained unyielding. You're turning the blade a fraction as it comes parallel to the ground, he explained, drawing his Illyrian blade from down his back. Watch. He slowly demonstrated, rotating his wrist where she did. See how you open up right here? He corrected his position. Keep your wrist like that. The blade is an extension of your arm. Gwen tried the movement and as slowly as he had and watched herself correct, fighting against the urge to open up her wrist and rotate the blade. She did it 3 times before she stopped falling into the bad habit. I blame Cassian for this. He's too busy making eyes at Nesta to notice such mistakes these days.
I love that when
Azriel laughed. He laughed at her. I'll give you that. Gwen smiled broadly. Thank you. Azriel dipped his head in the sketch of a bow, something restless settling in him. The fucking bond. Yeah. Even his shadows had calmed, as if content to lounge on his shoulders and watch.
I know. I did love that.
But sleep. He needed to at least attempt to get some. Fuck off, Azriel. Happy solstice, Azriel said before aiming for the archway into the house. Don't stay out too much longer. You'll freeze. Gwen nodded her farewell, again facing the ribbon, a warrior sizing up an opponent. All traces of that charming irreverence gone. Which, I want to point out, every time Azriel goes against someone, Feyre and Nesta have both been like a true warrior sizing up an opponent. So another mirror there.
Yeah.
And Azriel entered the warmth of the stairwell, and as he descended, he could have sworn a faint, beautiful singing followed behind him. Could have sworn his shadows sang in answer. He slept as well as could be expected, but when Azriel returned to the river house to gather his presents, he found Elaine's necklace amid the pile. I also want to point out Elaine has never given back any of Lucian's gifts.
Ooh, I love that.
We're going to finish our Gwynriel segment, but we're talking about the polls that I've been putting up on Instagram and how I literally never ever think that it's gonna sway the way that I want it to. And I put them up expecting to make myself mad when people don't think the same as me. I literally get so mad and it's so stupid. But I'm like, they're never gonna think this. They're never gonna like the poll's never gonna sway the way that I want it to sway. And like some of these fucking polls, like they end up the way that I want it to go. And I'm honestly just shell shocked because I'm like, I cannot tell people what to think, but make me a motherfucking Daemati. I would fucking love that. Like honestly, I would love to have Reese's power.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
I could change all these assholes' minds on whatever I wanted. It would be great. Even in the real world, it would be fucking lovely to just have everything think the way that I think.
I literally, you guys, I was just about to tell Melanie, like, I was cracking up because I have been on the internet, like, on all the social media, Tumblr, and, like, all stuff. And I have been seeing
portals.
Massive like uptake of like the Corsta theory, which we all know where that's originated from. And she's like, she goes,
I want to say right now, there better not be one motherfucking person that takes credit for that fucking theory. I swear to God.
It's all you, girl. It's all you. Stop. I like love it because like she was like Melanie's like I love how you think you're like not so influential because I literally like I see this shit online and I was like I know exactly where that started from. I know exactly who started that shit. It's all over Tumblr. I'm like I fucking know that person who influenced all these people. It's not gonna happen
on Tumblr. You better tell me.
I'll send it to you from here on out because like I've just been seeing like all these courses.
I forgot about my
totally put it on.
If so I can't help on Tumblr. Are you on Tumblr? You're on Tumblr now, right?
Yeah, I'm on Tumblr.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think I actually see you around on Tumblr.
I don't ever post, and I'm not on there frequently. The only reason that I was on Tumblr was because I was so upset about Nesta and like I was just like sitting there fuming and I was like I'm going online to Tumblr because they have some really good stuff on there to see what people are saying and then I saw that thing come up and I was like it makes so much sense but so I just think that you have a little bit more sway than you think you do and I always laugh like I crack up because all of this like Nessian hate, I'm like, oh, I feel like Melanie's really like stoking the flames on that.
No, I kid you guys not though. How many texts did I send you today? Like how many, like not even just today, like the last week, the amount of DMs that I've gotten from completely random people based on my stories and my posts. Like, these are people that love Nessian, okay? These are people that love Nessian. And again, we're going to go back to Gwynriel, but every time I'm shocked because I'm like, I do not expect these polls to go the way that I want them to go. But I put up a poll on my Instagram, and if you guys follow me, you probably saw it. A few of them, actually. But there was a specific one where I asked Huge question. Many of these polls are both for me and for the podcast, but do you think that Nesta and Cassian should break up / be the rejected mate trope if they are mates, which I'm not still 100% convinced. And so the two things on the poll were, yes, Nessian should break up, they're toxic, or no, they'll figure out their shit. And so the poll just ended an hour ago, right? Do you want to know the final results?
I do. I do want to know because, as you know, I went
First of all,
a nat.
First of all, I want you to guess what the final result is.
Well, I could just tell based off of your attitude right now that most people think they're going to break up.
What would be your guess on the percentages?
I would say, I feel like it'd be probably pretty 50-50. There's a lot of fighting right now in the fandom. I would say 50-50. I would say like 60-40. 60% think that they're going to break up.
That's very good. That's very good. 59-41. That was so close. 59% said they should break up. 41% said they'll figure it out.
So I would be okay with like a third act breakup and like reconciliation. Like I need Cassian to like step up. Like he needs to be a better mate. I love Nessian together. I love Cassian. So I really suffer with this. This is hard on me.
I had 3 more polls. Well, one other one was about Nessian. So
okay.
It was another post. It says, there's just 2 sentences. It says, Nesta wanted Cassian. Cassian wanted a mate. That was the post. And so under that, I just put a poll. No commentary, no nothing. And I put agree, it was lust/longing since Tanwin died, or disagree, he wanted all of Nesta. What do you think the result of that one was?
First of all, I would have voted disagree because he said he wanted Nesta from the first time he saw her too. It was like love at first sight. I would say it was love at first sight.
It was at first sight.
Probably like 70-30.
68-32. Very good. But
I'm a little psyched.
68 said it was lust, and 32 said it was Nesta. So even the Nessian fans think that it was lust.
I don't think it was lust. I don't.
Take away the sexual aspect of Nessian, what do you have? Literally, what do you have between them? Literally.
Okay, but the bonus chapter...
You can't use Akawar. No.
Why not? Why not? Akawar counts. The bonus chapter, it was like, what was it called? Ember
Wings and Embers or something.
Wings and Ember. Wings and Ember.
That was lust too.
Wait a second. Can we also talk about how the bonus chapter was Wings and Ember, and then we have Ember standing up for Nesta? I don't know.
Against
I thought that's
Cassian.
Against recent Cassian. So I'm kind of impressed by that. I didn't catch on to that actually. Wings and Ember. Why would that bonus chapter be titled Wings and Ember?
Why is that the only bonus chapter that has a title?
Weird, right? Wings Cassian, but like Ember.
Wings and Embers.
What does Ember have to do?
I think it was supposed to be Nesta. I think it was supposed to be foreshadowing probably what Nesta's power was going to be. Flames.
But she's got like her embers like silver flames. So I just don't consider it like.
To be fair, this
fire.
was what, middle of Akamath?
Yeah.
So at this point, when she wrote that, she could have still been thinking that Nesta was going to end up with Lucien.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But because then remember, she was like, oh, then I was writing and I was like, oh, I can't keep these two away from each other, actually.
Yes.
So probably after she wrote that bonus chapter, she was like, fuck, it's over. It's Cassian. Like,
yes.
It ain't Lucien.
It's not going to be Lucien. It's poor Lucien. He's just like, not,
I actually, to be fair, I actually I would definitely prefer Lucien with Elaine. I don't know. I feel like they just are better suited for each other.
They click. To me, they click. The problem is, for me, is that Elaine clicks more with Lucien than with Azriel. But it's funny because like Azriel's kind of similar to Lucien. Like they're kind of very similar people. You know, like I think Lucia's a little bit more like snarky, maybe sarcastic, and like witty and clever. And Azriel's a little bit more like chill, but like he's very kind. He's like polite. I don't know.
Yes and no. I feel like obviously Azriel is more of a warrior. He's an Illyrian, brute strength. Even if Cassian is like the general and blah blah blah, like Azriel is very close to that, despite his job being more like secretive and low key, and he can still hold his own like in the war, and he still helps Azriel command the legions and all of stuff like that. Whereas Lucien, like, yes, as Farah said, he's a warrior in his own right, and she doesn't know the full scope of his powers. None of us do. But Lucien loves being an emissary. He loves traveling. He loves talking things through with his words rather than with, swords and strength and fighting. He prefers to talk things through, which is just like Elaine.
Yeah.
Which Cassian and Azriel, and then you have Nesta and Elaine, and like Lucien and Tamlin. Like I feel they're all two sides of a coin, but one of them is always brute strength and one of them is always like more intellectual. So like Nesta would be the warrior and Elaine would be the one who likes to talk things through, because again, we know that she doesn't like fighting. We know that she doesn't like bloodshed. And like Tamlin is more of the brawn and Lucien was more of the intellectual, the emissary who likes to go and talk to people. And then Cassian and Azriel, like again, Cassian and Azriel are both warriors, but Azriel would prefer to like do his spying and figure things out that way rather than to actually have to fight, unlike Cassian. So I feel like there's always these like groups of like siblings per se. Yeah. Where one is the brawn and one is the brains,
I like that. I actually really like that. I never have thought of it like that before. I have never. Yeah.
So like Lucien and Elaine both being kind of the brains, everyone's smart, but like more of the people who like to talk things out to problem solve rather than use their fists or their swords or, actual brute strength fighting. I think they go well together. And I also, people forget all the time when they talk about Elaine, even people who love Elaine, they always talk about her gardening and her baking and like her gentleness. But I haven't seen anyone bring up lately that Elaine's very first like wish when we saw her was to travel. She wants to travel. She told Farah, and I think book 1, I'm rereading book 1. I'm doing the series for my 10th time. But Elaine was like, "Oh, I want to go to the continent and I want to travel and all of this stuff." So I'm like, "You're telling me that her and Lucien are not going to be good mates, but literally Lucien is traveling around as an emissary, traveling around even because he doesn't have a solid home at the moment." So, he's going from the spring court to the night court, probably stopping off in dawn with Nuon or in summer with Tarquin. Like, he travels to every single court. He has friends in every single court, the mortal lands. He probably has friends on the continent from when he literally traveled with Papa Archeron, her father. So he's gonna have stories about her father for her. And I've said this before, I want him to take her to the continent on the boat that was named for her.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. And I want him to tell her the stories of like what him and the dad talked about during that. But Elaine wanted to travel. Lucien is a literal traveler. And that's even putting aside all of the symbolism with the sunshine and the light and the fox and the fawn and, being compared to nature and like all this other stuff. Flower and flame, fox and fawn, sunlight, sunshine, light. Both of their names mean light too. Like, both of their names mean light. Both of them like to talk things through. Both of them love to travel. Like, people make it seem like, oh, they're not going to be, they're not good for one another. They have nothing in common. Like, since when?
Yeah. Yeah.
They have everything in common. And then I bring that up. And then, of course, they switch gears and they're like, well, opposites attract. And it's like, you just said that they don't mesh, though. And I gave you an argument against that.
Yeah.
But also just the fact that she's, again, and I've said this a million times, but the fact that she's always seated near the sunniest window. And what do you need, Elaine? Sunshine. Lucien is literally the heir of the Sunshine Court. He doesn't know it yet, or maybe he does know it yet. He's hiding it. But he's the heir of the Day Court. The Day Court is going to have gardens. It is the Sunshine Court. Their symbol is the sun. They're going to have gardens for her.
Well, I was also thinking today because I was like, I'm like, the Elriels do have a very convincing argument. But I was thinking about a couple of things with Elaine. The scene when Nesta told her in Silver Flames to like fuck off, right? When she's like, don't ruin Feyre's birthday, and Nesta's like, oh, fuck off. And Elaine, I would think she would be like slightly offended or kind of hurt, and she loved it, and she was laughing, and she was entertained by it.
Just like Lucien.
Just like Lucien. That's what I mean. And I was like, it kind of struck me as odd. And I was like, so Elaine, I'm wearing my PJs, guys. It's been a long day.
I have a post, and I forget half of what we said in season 1. I'm sorry if I already mentioned the post. But I have a post on my Instagram where I put that scene with Nesta and Elaine and the scene in ACOTAR with Lucien and Feyre when she goes, you're such a prick or whatever. And he laughs and he's like, much better.
Yes. They like Elaine likes people like she likes that type of stuff.
Like, that's a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah. I love it. And I was like, when I read that, I was like, ooh, baby, Lucien's gonna have it.
And even better because Feyre compares her and Nesta all the time. So like in that scene, it's Feyre with Lucien. And then in the other scene, it's Nesta with Elaine. And she's like, oh, sometimes I don't know who's worse, me or Nesta. So the fact that Nesta was like, fuck off to Elaine, and Feyre was like, you're a prick to Lucien. And him and Elaine have the exact same reply.
Yeah.
Same exact reply, different font.
Yes. I loved it. I love it. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's not that I'm opposed to Elaine and Azriel being together. I'm certainly not, because I do think they'd be a cute couple. I love Azriel. Like, I love him even more. But I was thinking about her solstice gifts to him, and it wounds my heart to read that she never got Lucien a gift. But then I was like thinking about the types of gifts Elaine was giving to Azriel, and they're clever. Like, they're like interesting, fascinating gifts, like
they're
the headache
both
powder.
The best gift givers. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
So I was like, even though she's not getting him a gift, that they would be a wonderful couple together, because they're so creative and clever and witty, and people don't see it. You know what I mean?
I don't know whether this was a purposeful thing by SJM, but and I keep saying, as I said before, but I have to connect everything. So it's like, I know that Elaine isn't getting him any gifts back, right? But we did have the scenes in ACOWAR where they're talking, right? And, Lucien always ends up leaving. It's not like Elaine doesn't really dismiss him. It's usually Feyre or Nesta walking in the room. And then they're like, okay, you're done. Go. So, Elaine never actually dismisses him.
But she doesn't engage with him. And she does dismiss him.
She was talking, and actually in the scene where he comes back after they get Maja to look her over, and Maja's like, oh, have her mate see if there's anything wrong with her. That scene where he's like assessing her through the mate bond and whatever, which I always bring up, right?
I was gonna bring that up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like he's like, she's fine or whatever, and like she's like, oh, and like she like jumps up and she's like, it's like you tugged on her rib, and like they're mates, like she felt it. Like we have that scene with Phazan, we have that scene with Elucien. I'm not gonna bring up that we don't have it with Messian, but that's a whole other thing. Just so you know. But then but then we have the scene in Akafas, and again, I don't read Akafas a lot. I'm sorry. I don't remember whether it was before or after Solstice. I think it might have been after. But anyways, they're sitting near the tea cart, and he's like just sitting there, right? And, you know, I think it was Farah. It has to be Farah. Who's like, he was gripping the chair so tightly. Like he was gripping the chair so tightly, but he was sitting there with her nicely. You know, they have like a little bit of back and forth, not a ton. And Elaine is kind of like, I know that Farah kind of set this up, and she's kind of pissed. And she's like, oh, do you want any snacks or whatever? Like, just to be kind of polite. Do you want any snacks or whatever? And he's like, no, I'm good or whatever. And she like gets up to get them anyway. Like she ignores him and like goes into the kitchen anyway. And that's when her and Lucien have the fight about the Band of Exiles and all that stuff. And then Farah goes into the kitchen, and, you know, Elaine has that whole thing about, I don't want a male, and I don't owe him my time or anything, and all of that. And maybe it's me being an Elucien shipper, but I don't really think it is, because the way that the scene read was that, like, she was kind of offended that he didn't want her baking. I don't know.
Really?
Maybe
I didn't get that.
She was kind of offended. And like, maybe she's like, okay, he doesn't want anything from me, so I don't want anything from him. But she never rejects his gifts. And I wanted to make note of that, because when everyone's like, she doesn't even like him, she doesn't like his gifts, she doesn't wear them or whatever. Okay, she might not wear them. She might not want to give him false hope that she's ready for anything, but she kept them. She kept them. She has them. She did not keep Azriel's.
I was thinking about that all day today, but I want to bring something up to you because I have a question about that. I think that the reason she doesn't keep Azriel's, don't you think so, is because he essentially rejected her.
Yeah, they end up rejecting each other. And I hate when people are like, well, that's just because Rhys interfered and blah, 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 blah. Okay, Rhys interfered. However, at that time, Azriel, as we know, is a rebel. Azriel, as we know, will tell Rhys to fuck off. If he very well wanted to, he would have been like, fuck off, closed his mind bridge. So there's so there's something in Azriel that knew it was wrong. He knew it was wrong. He knew that Lucien was sleeping down the hall. And he was probably like, okay, this happened for a reason. I need to stop. Rhys is pissed at me. He wants to talk to me. Fine. Because we get all through Akawar, and even in Akamath, through Amren even, where they're like, Azriel will tell anyone to fuck off. Like, Azriel's the rebel. Azriel, you know, will go against orders, you know? And so the fact that he immediately stopped and didn't tell him to fuck off, didn't close his mental shields, and actually went down to that office, he knew. You can't tell me that he didn't know that Rhys wasn't pissed. You could tell that Rhys was pissed. He knew that Rhys was going to lay into him. And I think he knew that what he was doing with Elaine was wrong. He didn't care at the moment, but there was a part of him that was like, I know it's wrong. I gotta stop. And someone actually DM'd me today, and I forget what post they DM'd me off of, but they asked me, they're like, if Rhys hadn't shown up, do we think that Elaine would have actually felt like guilty or this is wrong and eventually stopped? And I do actually think she would have, because I think that, I mean, regardless, I think that Lucien felt it, but he's giving her freedom because he knows, like, okay, my father and my mom has a terrible marriage. You know, she was forced into this. He doesn't want to be like Baron and Lady Autumn. So he's going to that's why he's giving Elaine space. That's why he's giving her freedom. But I do think it would have hurt him. And I think she would have felt that through the bond. But on the flip side of it, as I said, even if Rhys didn't show up, I do think Azriel would have kind of felt guilty as well, because out of all of the Bat Boys, I do feel like he's the most moral one of them.
I agree.
I know that people are like, well, he tortures people and blah, blah, blah. As I've said before, he's a Robin Hood. He only tortures the guilty.
Yeah, I love that. He is a Robin Hood. I've never thought of it like that, because he's very kind.
Like the Adder and like the soldiers that were overrun by Breelin, being controlled by Breelin. So like it was technically Breelin and not them. And like
they were kind of innocent. But
well, he said, like, I tried to keep them alive. Like, I tried to get answers out of them, but like they were
rabid, basically.
They were dead. They were brain dead. Like they were just being controlled. So that's why, like, he only, you know. So I do feel like his morality would have kicked in anyway. And I think that's why he didn't say fuck off and put up his mental shields, because he knew what he was doing was wrong. He knew it. Because he knew, like, he doesn't really have that much beef with Lucien as a person. They had been working together on the Autumn Court. So I feel like he was probably like, okay, if that was me down the hall and this was my mate, would I don't know, would I try to stop it? Would I respect her as much as Lucien does right now? Like, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of things running through his head, but like, he's a horny boy. Like he was like, I kind of, and I know that everyone's always like, well, he felt entitled to her and he said that he deserved her.
No,
and that's not what happened.
He never said that.
That's not what happened. That's what Rhys said. That's what Rhys assumed, because Azriel was mad. I've said this before, but Azriel was mad. That was his venting scene. All the other characters, aside from Lucien so far, have gotten the chance to have their little venting scene, to have their little screaming session, to have their little explosion. Azriel hadn't. And he has a lot of pent up shit. So I completely understand where he was coming from, where his PTSD from being in the dungeon, back in the dungeon as a kid, looking at everyone in the outside, being trapped. And that's where he was at this point. Mentally, he was that little kid stuck in the dungeon, looking at his brothers happy and playing outside, happy with their mates, and just feeling like the outcast again. And I feel like that really just kicked up his desperation and his loneliness and his just desire for somebody to care about him again. Because as we know throughout Akamath and Akawar, like, Rhys has really been ragging on him and writing on him and like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, he's been pretty overworked anyway. And I don't know, I just feel like everything caught up to him in that moment. And he's like, well, why don't I deserve happiness too? Like, why didn't I deserve for the Cauldron to give me a mate? Like, what am I doing wrong? Why does, like, the world hate me? Like, that was his little moment to just vent, because it's Rhys, it's his brother, right? You would think that Rhys would understand, of all people.
Right.
So I was actually, I was peeved at Rhys. Again, I understand him, but I was peeved at how he was like threatening him, because you think, as someone who knows about Azriel's background, as someone who knows that he was hung up on another unattainable female for 500 years, and who knows that his obsession was with Mor was because he thought he didn't deserve her. He goes after people who he doesn't think he deserves, who he knows he's not going to end up with because he doesn't think he deserves it, even if he wants it. So there's this really confused part of him, which is, it's like hard to explain, but there's, on the inside, he's just very confused because on one hand, he's like, okay, what have I done that's so bad that I don't deserve to be happy like my brothers? And then there's the other side of him that is still kind of that little kid that's like, okay, I'm a monster. I'm, crazy. Like, I'm the feared shadow singer. I'm a torturer. I'm a terrible person. So I don't deserve a mate after all of this terrible shit that I've done. And so I think that's where he's coming from. And I think he's honestly just struggling from day to day with which side he's on, because he's going back and forth. Because as much as he really, really, really wants a mate, he still doesn't think he deserves one. That was a very long rant. I'm sorry, but
no, I like it's a good rant. It was a very good rant. I'm just like thinking about it. Because both, I have seen really good arguments for both. I have seen good arguments for Elriel.
Tell me some. I want to debunk them. Tell me.
I have to go back. I'll have to go back and find it. We'll have to go back and find the post. But yeah, there's a lot of like.
But this is what, like I had said with Elucien, and why I think that they're gonna end up together, and I think Elaine is eventually gonna basically get over it and be like, look, I'm a fae, I can't change it. Whatever. I do think once she speaks to Elucien, she's just gonna, it's gonna be a slow burn. Like, I do think, like, with all the fire and the sunlight and everything, like, that's kind of like the figurative light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. But I do think they're gonna be a slow burn because Elaine is still kind of grieving not being a human. And honestly, Elucien has never and is still not over the death of Jesminda and the shock of her not actually being his mate, which I don't really blame him because he loved her. Like, he loved her. And everyone's like, he just wants Elaine and he's possessive. Blah, 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 blah. It's like,
he's not possessive at all.
No, like, he's not. And as much as Elaine is reeling, Elucien is equally reeling. They are both traumatized by this. They are both shocked by this. Even in their scenes together, both of them are like, it's hard to be in the same room. Elucien says, it's so hard to be in the same room with her.
I don't understand why he feels that way, though. Like, I'm not, why?
So, like the parallel with Azriel, which is one of the similarities that Elucien and Azriel have, I do think Elucien is equally torn. Not the same way that Azriel is with like, I don't deserve this, but I want this. But I think Lucian's is more like, okay, I want Elaine, but I shouldn't want Elaine because, like, I told Jesminda that she was my mate, and I told her that, like, I would always love her and that she was the most beautiful. And now I'm thinking, like, okay, Elaine's the most beautiful person I've ever seen. And we see it in the Cauldron scene or in Akawar when he says, like, she's the most beautiful female he'd ever seen. And then it says, like, guilt, greasy and oily, ran through his veins, and he's like, he once told Jesminda that. So he's still super affected, and he thinks that Jesminda's death is in vain now, which is, I think, the thing that's really catching him up. And that's why when he's in the same room with Elaine and all of those mate bond feelings are super strong, he can't deal with them because it just comes with all of the guilt of everything that happened with Jesminda, because he's thinking now, like, okay, she died for me and I'm here having these feelings for someone else when I told her, like, I never would, like, you're my mate.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good point too. I'm just so torn. I think I think it's gonna be Elucien. I think it's gonna be Elucien.
Yeah, I think the whole Gisminda thing is why Elucien is giving her space. I think he also needs the space because everyone makes it seem like he's so claiming and possessive and I'm like, no, he's not. Like, literally, when?
I was gonna say he's the least possessive. He doesn't claim Elena at all. He literally like gives her space, never sees her. He lives in a completely separate area. Cassian and Nesta would never do that.
We have a little guest, but it's okay.
Sorry, guys.
I was trying to find where we were to pick up on the Gwynriel bonus chapter. Well, I call it the Gwynriel bonus chapter.
I love that you call it the Gwynriel bonus chapter.
I call it the Gwynriel bonus chapter. So we left off where he finds the necklace amid the pile.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yes.
It says he pocketed it, spent the rest of his day, even the blasted snowball fight, with every intention of returning it to the shop in the Palace of Thread and Jewels. But when he returned from the cabin in the mountains, he didn't go to the market square. Instead, he found himself at the library beneath the House of Wind, standing before Clotho as the clock chimed 7 in the evening. He slid the small box across her desk. If you see Gwen, would you give this to her? So something drew him to the library.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
After that little something sparked in his chest.
Yes.
Right? Clotho angled her head, and the enchanted pen wrote on a piece of paper, "A solstice gift from you." Asriel shrugged. "Don't tell her it came from me." "Why? Does she need to know? Tell her it was a gift from Reese." "That would be a lie." I love Clotho. Clotho ships them so hard, too.
She does.
He avoided the urge to see. This was the first time he mentioned his mother, like, kind of by name. He avoided the urge to cross his arms, not wanting to look intimidating. He blocked out the memory that flashed of his mother cringing before his father, the male standing with crossed arms in such a way that made his displeasure known before he opened his hateful mouth. That was a very pointed paragraph to throw in there. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So we get
I just don't. I'm like, what?
We get his mom in this bonus chapter. We get his mom in that bonus chapter. It's Asriel's book next. I can't wait.
It's totally Asriel's book next. I can't believe people are saying it's Elaine's book. It's Asriel's book.
I cannot wait for the scenes with his mom because they're going to be so cute.
Oh, they're going to be wonderful. I love it.
Look, as search for the words, his voice becoming quiet. If there's another priestess here who might appreciate it, give it to them. But I'm not taking that necklace with me when I leave. He waited for Clotho's pen to finish writing. Your eyes are sad, Shadow Singer. See, this is why I think Clotho is the spinner of fate. Because I find it curious that the day that Clotho was like, check the sign-up sheet again, Nesta. Or wait another couple days, Nesta. And then Gwen was the first one to sign up. And now she's like, your eyes are sad. And it would be a lie if I told Gwen it didn't come from you. Like,
I know.
I lost the snowball fight today. Clotho was smart enough to see through his deflection. She wrote, I'll give it to Gwyneth and tell her a friend left it for her. He wouldn't go so far to call Gwen a friend, but fine, thank you. And again, this was like in the middle of Akasiv. They barely knew each other, and yet he was already like drawn to the library.
No, yeah, but also he's like, he wouldn't go as far as to call Gwen a friend.
He was totally deflecting from his own emotion.
But he does it all the time to her. He like doesn't want to linger near her. He doesn't want to like stay with her. Like that's my own right.
It's almost like it mirrors Elucien. Almost like it mirrors Elucien. You know? He couldn't stand to be in the same room. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Clotho's pen moved once more. She deserves something as beautiful as this. I will thank you for the joy it shall bring to her. Now, how does she know what's in the box? And I don't think she was talking about the necklace. I think she was talking about their mate bond.
Don't read into it, Melody. She definitely was
No,
not talking.
No,
There's no way.
no, mm-mm, mm-mm.
You're too thoughtful.
He slid the small box across her desk. How did she know what's in it? How did she know what was in it? How?
I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point.
How'd she know it was in it? How'd she know it was something beautiful? She talks in riddles all the time. She deserves something as beautiful as this. I thank you for the joy it shall bring her. Right after saying, you look sad, Shadow Singer. Clotho means spinner of fate. Come on. Come on.
I mean, that might be kind of a hard thing to
She
sell
doesn't know
there.
what's in the box. How does she know it's beautiful? The same person who called Cassian and Reese and made sure that Cassian showed up first for Nesta in the library. Come on. Same person. Really?
But then if we go by that line of thought, then Cassian and Nesta are absolutely mates.
Yeah, but I'm saying Reese could have like done something with that, like I've said. But I feel like Clotho can like feel
the mate bonds, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something sparked in Azriel's chest, but he only nodded his thanks and left. So this is right after she's like, she deserves something as beautiful as this. Right after Miss Clotho Spinner of Fate says this. He could picture it, though, as he ascended the stairs back to the house proper, how Gwen's teal eyes might light upon seeing the necklace. For whatever reason, he could see it. Right after talking to Clotho. But Azriel tucked away the thought, consciously erasing the slight smile it brought to his face. He buried the image down deep where it glowed quietly, a thing of secret, lovely beauty, which, as I have said before, exactly mirrors the Quinlar one in Crescent City 2 bonus chapter.
You did say that.
It glowed in her chest the remainder of the day. For Hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
And I wrote this thing on my Instagram because for some reason there was some sort of not really debate, but there was some sort of discussion on Facebook. And so I think I told you, like, I took it and I like made it this whole I wrote out this whole thing for my Instagram. So I'm just gonna like read it. So I said that again, it said no less than 3 times that Azriel always leaves 2 people alive to interrogate, and the day that he saved Gwen, he didn't leave any of them alive. I said it brings to my mind 3 different mirrors, and it's going to obviously change depending on who you ship, but these are who I ship. So I said the first one, first and foremost, would be Lucien snarling at the King of Hybern and then fighting to get to Elaine as they were dragging her toward the cauldron, and then spell cleaving in his rage when he was dumped out to protect her. And then I mentioned the cloaks. I did mention the cloaks. How Lucien put a cloak over Elaine and Az put a cloak over Gwen. And then I said it also lightly mirrors Reese beating up Cassian and then mutilating Kier for making a snide jokes about Feyre. And it also kind of mirrors, which again for me it's my ship, Tamlin taking on the dozens of Hellbeasts to try to save Feyre, but also Briar was there. I think like those are the main points of rage for mates, which I don't remember one for Nessian. Do you remember Cassian getting so mad for Nesta? I don't. That's why it's weird. It's kind of an outlier to me, but not that I'm going to get into that, but
I kind of felt like at the time it was like the blood right thing, how like they had been taken in the blood right. Like he
But
was.
if so, there's the thing too that everyone says that I wanted to bring up, which I'm glad you brought that up, because everyone's like, Azriel didn't even care that Gwen was thrown in the blood right, and all this stuff, and Cassian was furious. But if you reread that scene, it specifically mentions, yes, it mentions Cassian going off and being upset, but it mentions his siphons flaring and flaring and flaring. And then it goes over to Azriel, and his siphons were equally flaring in rage, the way that they do in rage. Both of them.
Really? I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, both of their siphons
Gotta reread it.
It was like Azriel's siphons were guttering like blue flame or whatever, and it was right after it says Cassian's siphons burned like ruby flame. And I'm like, they're both pissed. But at the time, like Azriel is always the more like even-keeled one, right? So he's going to try to calm down Cassian before thinking of himself. And I just thought that was really a fun contrast. Because everyone's like, he didn't care. He didn't care. I'm like, he absolutely cared. You can tell by the way his siphons are reacting that he's pissed.
But he didn't make, I will say, he like wasn't like, let's go get him, let's go stop this. He's like, you gotta let them do their thing. You gotta let them fight it out.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I know.
Because what does that mirror? Rhys letting Feyre go destroy the Spring Court. When everyone, Azriel, Moore, Cassian, go get her, she's your mate, go get her, you need to go get her. He's like, no, she can handle it. Like, I want nothing more than to go and get my mate out of enemy territory, but she can handle it. I know she can handle it. I know she can handle it. This is the same exact thing. Because that whole time when he was teasing her, going, you won't finish the course, you won't finish the course, and she's like, we'll finish the course. Like, just watch us, Shadow Singer, and all that stuff. Like, he has faith in his mate. It perfectly mirrors Phazant. It does.
Nah.
It does.
I love, I'm a Gwynriel shipper because I'm an Elucien shipper, but I will say, like, he's not concerned. He isn't, though. He's not concerned about Gwen, like, in that.
He is. He mentions Gwen
as, like, a friend.
He mentions Gwen and Emery by name. He obviously has to add Emery because they can't really leave her out at this point, but he mentions them by name. His siphons are flaring, but he's not going to be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, because Cassian's already flipping out like that. He can't just like feed into it. He's gonna try to also because the whole Eris situation was going on with Koshi, which I know you hate Koshi, but that whole situation was going on, and they had orders from Rhys where they're like, he's like, okay, like they can handle it, whatever. We have to go and fucking handle Koshi. Like I feel like Azriel is the type of person where he's going to try to distract himself. Like,
totally. That's why he wants to work so much, because he just distracts. He like dissociates. And,
so
like,
that's what he's doing. He's dissociating from worrying about Gwen and worrying about Nesta and worrying about Emery to like, okay, we have a mission. We have to think about the mission first. We have to and that's why Cassian's like, and he's like, okay, I can't be like that because we need to focus right now. And so he's that type of person. So when people are like, he's not flipping out, he's not blah, blah, he's not the type that's going to flip out. He's more of the type that's going to try to have faith in his mate, more like Rhys. Rhys is back and forth. Like, again, we see with Kier and we see with Cassian. But to be fair, that was right after they solidified the mate bond. So we know that they're a little more like that,
crazy.
And you also have to keep in mind that at this time, like, Azriel and Gwen's isn't snapped yet. It's not fully snapped yet. So while he might have that pull and that anger and, which reminded me of when he found her at Sangerva, like the siphons flaring and killing everyone immediately, like he still did that silently. Like he wasn't freaking, like he's more of the ice cold rage where he just focuses. And if he can, he deflects from it. He distracts himself if he can. So that's what he was doing here. He's like, okay, we have a mission. We have to focus on that. I think the girls can handle it. And he tells Cassian, like, we trained them well. We trained them well. And I think it wasn't just him trying to be like, okay, Cassian, look, calm. I think he was trying to calm himself down as well as Cassian.
My only thing that I want to bring up to that is that when Elaine was taken, right, by the cauldron or whatever, he seemed more reactive to Elaine being taken by the cauldron than Gwen going into the blood right.
Because
what do you have to say to that?
Because Elaine can't handle herself. Everyone treats her like a doll, including Azriel. Oh no, Elaine can't handle it. Elaine can't fight. She's not a warrior. She's not strong enough. She's like this little doll to everybody. So, and I also, again, I'm sorry, I say also and again all the time, but I love this because everyone that's an Elriel is like, he's like, I'm getting her back and blah, 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 blah. Which, yes, I'm getting her back. But you also have Lucien, I'm getting my mate back.
Yeah.
They, so Lucien wasn't there at the time. If Lucien was there, it would have been Lucien to be the one to go after her, which is why I think he's going to be the one to save her from Koshi. But that's a whole other thing. So Azriel has no faith that Elaine can take care of herself. We see this when she asks to scry. Which Elriel mirrors Phelan for me, and I know a lot of people will probably hate me for that.
I just love that statement. That's my favorite statement you've said all night.
It does. It mirrors Phelan for me because, Tamlin and Feyre were in love. They thought they were in love. They did things for each other. They went after each other. They tried to protect each other. But at the end of the day, Tamlin kind of talked for Feyre, and she didn't like that. She wasn't like that. Even though, like, Tamlin thought, like, she couldn't really handle herself after Under the Mountain, which she couldn't, but that's, it's perspective-wise. And Azriel talks for Elaine the same way that Tamlin talked for Feyre.
Wow, Melanie. I have never thought of it like that. And I love that.
He does, because when they're like, Nesta, you have to scry, and she's like, I don't know if I can. And then Elaine walks in the room and she's like, I'll do it. Right? And what's the first thing out of Azriel's mouth? No, you won't. And Nesta, no, you won't. And she's like, I will fucking do whatever the fuck I want to do. You're not going to tell me I can't.
Yeah.
Like, Azriel talks for her, and he doesn't think she's capable, the same way that Tamlin talked for Feyre, didn't think that Feyre was capable. Azriel wants to shelter Elaine. Tamlin wanted to shelter Feyre.
Oh my god. This is my favorite revelation all week long. And you want to know what, Melanie?
I've had that, like, I can't believe I've never said that before on the podcast.
You've never said that. But it's really profound to me because this is why I'm not opposed to, and I think this is why, like, I subconsciously kind of like the idea of Elriel, and I think it might because it
gives Phelan vibes.
But like, I don't think what they are doing is ill-intentioned or wrong per se.
No, it never was. Tamlin was trying to protect Feyre because he saw her die under the mountain. Azriel's trying to protect Elaine because he saw her die in the cauldron.
Yeah. And like, oh my god, I don't know why, it's like really freaking me out. That's a really good.
Feyre was, rejecting Tamlin's advances because she didn't know if she could trust the Fae yet. And then what does Elaine do? The second that she thinks that Azriel might not be fully into her, she rejects his present. Same thing.
Wow. Holy shit. Elriel is Phelan 2.0.
It is.
But I loved Phelan. I really did. I get that Tamlin did those things and like obviously, but oh my god, that's why I kind of have a soft spot for Elriel. Melody. Well
Tamlin gets
said.
Feyre the paint. Azriel took Elaine into the garden.
Yes. But you wanna what?
It's everyone's like, Rhys let Feyre do what she wanted. He let her, train. He let her do this. He let her do that. Azriel let Gwen handle herself in the blood right. He let her train even though it was freezing cold out because it was her choice. But he won't with Elaine, just like Tamlin wouldn't with Feyre.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I struggle then because I'm like, to me, I guess it depends on what your version of love and like what a good mate would be, right? Because like I don't know.
But it depends on the person. It depends on the personality.
It depends on
Elaine has shown at this point that she doesn't want to be coddled.
Yeah.
And Azriel is still in that state of mind, like, we have to coddle her. She can't handle herself. She can't scry. She'll get hurt. The Cauldron already kidnapped her once. Like Tamlin. She's traumatized from under the mountain. Amarantha killed her, and Hybern's after her is gonna kidnap her again. And same exact thought process.
Wow, I don't know. My mind's kind of blown. I don't know why it's blown. Maybe it's because it's super late at night. But like to me, that was pretty profound. I don't know.
I can't believe I've never mentioned that before.
You've never mentioned that. Elriel, I literally want to do like a reel about that. Elriel is like the Phelan
Elriel is Phelan.
So basically,
and
Sarah,
down to the blow up.
Oh my god.
Because what happened? Lucian's like, just let her train. Just let her come. Just let her. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. And I'm not saying that Tamlin wasn't justified in his own right. His fears were justified, just like Azriel's fears were justified. But neither of them wanted that.
The women didn't want that.
Yeah.
That's like,
and so Tamlin exploded because he was, he saw her die. He loved her at that time. Azriel exploded at Rhys because he saw her die. He sees that currently she's uncomfortable with Lucian. He's lonely and wants someone of his own, kind of like Tamlin. And if we're going with the Lauren theory, Tamlin already lost somebody.
Yes.
Too. So.
But also it's kind of interesting because if we go with the Lauren theory too, it would link Tamlin and Azriel again, because Sarah seems to be linking Az and Rhys's sister for some reason. And
because I told you, because if Lauren was the one who knew about the portals and the thin places, the only other two fucking people who know are Tamlin and Azriel.
Azriel. Yes. Yeah.
Which is why I'm wondering if Azriel knew about their thing and hasn't said shit. Because
he
hasn't said shit even about the portals until CC3.
The thing is,
which seems totally random to us and totally out of pocket and totally against character that he wouldn't tell Rhys about this. But what if there's a reason he can't tell Rhys about this? What if, like Tamlin, he can't say anything to Rhys?
I kind of love that. Like, I don't think that's the case, but I love that idea.
Because
how do we know, first of all, that he did not tell Rhys about the portals?
Because he says Rhys has no idea. Because Nesta's like, does Rhys know? And does Rhys know about the tunnels and all this stuff? He's like, no, he has no idea.
But does Azriel really know? Or is Rhys kind of like an excellent liar and secretly does?
So the whole, going back to the High Lords meeting, that whole thing, I don't know why it was always fishy to me.
Mm.
Like, I understood it, but it was always weird to me that Azriel was the one who's like, be careful how you speak about my high lady. Like,
Yeah.
the second Night Court female to be linked to Tamlin. Perhaps. And Azriel, I don't know, maybe Azriel was more of a brother to Lauren than Rhys was. Because, again, he's the quiet one. He's the one that's in the shadows. He's the one that just does the spying. I like to think that he found out. He's not going to tell
love that.
his dad.
I love that.
Rhys's dad is the one separating them all the time. He's not going to tell Rhys's dad that his enemy's son is like courting his daughter, like in secret. Like, and I feel like, and Rhys, as the heir at that time who was training, I feel like if he was like, okay, if I tell Rhys, he's legally obligated to kind of tell his father, kind of like Tamlin was legally obligated to tell his father things, which I think his father forced his hand, obviously, because he was evil.
Totally.
But
totally. Wow, interesting. We have these really interesting connections between these characters that I've never really thought about before. Maybe because I haven't thought too much about Azriel, but like Azriel's really a lot more connected than we have seen, than we know about. You know what I mean?
Which I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Sorry, finish that real quick. But I want to bring up that if Azriel is the only one who knows about the thin places, the portals, throughout Prythian, right?
Okay.
As we know now, then, like, I mean, Tamlin's father and his brothers, and he was dragged along, obviously, they used a thin place to get into the Night Court. Why is nobody asking, oh, how did they even get in undetected? I wonder who can get in places undetected, but Azriel.
I know.
And it never mentions where Az and Cassian were that day.
No, it never talks about it. Unless they glamored themselves. That's the only thing I can think about. Unless they glamored themselves as Illyrians.
But there's still wards. Like, in order to, if you look at the map,
yeah,
technically, in order to get to Illyria, you would have to pass through Valaris, or at least under Valaris.
Okay.
And if Valaris is heavily warded so much so that it's hidden from the eye, the only thing that could override a ward would technically be like the portal that was made by the Mother, or by the Asteri, or by the Cauldron, as we've mentioned. So,
yeah. Interesting.
Azzy, what do you know, Azzy? Does Azriel know what happened? Can he not tell, like Tamlin? Because that, be careful how you speak to my high lady, that just seemed very personal to me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Because I'm like, I don't know, because like he didn't give Rhys a chance to respond, and he didn't give Cassian a chance to respond. He was just immediately like, be careful how you speak about my high lady. Like, I don't know. And the fact Tamlin never mentions them, like,
it's weird.
They were mentioned, but like once, like in passing. I know. Doesn't even really look at them, except for the whole looks like other preferences run in the Archeron family. Like, that was toward Cassian, but like doesn't look at Azriel. Doesn't like Azriel had to be like, it was just fishy.
I will say to you though, don't you think it's kind of weird in how in Silver Flames he kind of acted like he didn't know Cassian? Like I wouldn't be like,
no, he knew. He just I don't know. He just
it was weird. it's not like Cassian, and you never see Cassian really insulting Tamlin that I like can remember, right? Like Cassian doesn't really say much of anything to him.
Neither of them really do.
Azriel has never said anything bad about Tamlin. All he said was like, "Oh, Tamlin's gonna be upset when he finds out that Feyre's pregnant," and then Rhys is like, "Oh, I don't care about Tamlin, whatever."
Yeah,
but like I don't feel like I recall Azriel or Cassian saying anything bad about Tamlin.
no, it was more, and I thought there was a passing comment, and I don't know whether it was from Cassian or Azriel. I think one of them made a passing comment about Tamlin. I forget which one it was. But like the fact that they had to have known that Rhys was his friend when they were little, because like they're fucking brothers.
They're brothers, like they know.
Like,
I mean, they bring him up when Feyre's pregnant. They literally go out of their way to bring up Tamlin. It was really weird. Like Tamlin, yeah, Tamlin doesn't care at this point. Tamlin's like fucking destroyed, so he doesn't care.
Was it Azriel that said that? Because I feel like if it was Azriel that said that, maybe he's thinking back to, okay, so Tamlin got your sister pregnant, and she's not here, but now he's gonna be pissed that he thought this person was now his second chance mate, and you took her. And like the Night Court keeps fucking with everything, which I find kind of funny because it's kind of like the whole Mor and Eris and Cassian thing. I saw a meme the other day where it's like, if I had a nickel for every time Cassian ruined my chance at marriage, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice with Eris and Mor and Nesta.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the same with like Tamlin and Lauren and Feyre. Where Azriel's just like, what the fuck is going on?
I know. Oh my god, I know. Oh my god.
But yeah, I can't put my finger on what they know, because we have Azriel knowing things that Rhys doesn't know, and we have Cassian knowing things about Rhys that I don't know if other people know. Like Rhys alludes to the fact that he has these powers that can make him jump forward and back in time. Cassian alludes to that. And he says, like, oh, my family, but like, does Feyre know? Like, who in your family know? Is it just Cassian, or is it Cassian and Mor? And like, again, we don't really know about Mor's power either. So, like, what? I don't. It bothers me because how would Rhys? I don't know. Like, does Azriel know about the sister? And like is preventing Rhys from knowing, or can he not tell like Tamlin? And like, why is everybody so secretive? I don't get it.
I know.
I don't get it. I don't get it either. Do you think we're gonna get maybe some of the Rhys's sister story in Azriel's book? Because they're
well, it's funny because
that was really the first time he brought her up, but we were already having people that were like shipping her with Azriel, which I think is weird because first of all, that's your adopted brother. Disgusting. No. They're literally like brother and sister.
That's kind of a good point.
Yeah,
that's kind of a good point.
But why do I feel like Azriel might have known? Because if he's keeping secrets about the thin places from Rhys, what else is he keeping secret from Rhys? Because we know that he's the rebel. And just the fact that SJM like just affirmed that Azriel is the rebel, but Azriel knows this, and Azriel knows this, and Azriel knows this, like just scattered there. And then we figure out like, oh, but Rhys doesn't know.
That we know of. I'm not convinced that he doesn't know, because he's the highest, strongest High Lord they've ever seen. But
Nesta asked Azriel, like, does he know about these tunnels? Like, does he know about? And
You're putting too much into that. You're putting too much into it, I think.
No, because he never saw the hologram, and like the history wasn't passed down as it said. The history wasn't passed down because Rhys has no idea. And then the bonus chapter where he still doesn't know that Bryce is his cousin. So he has no idea that any of this transpired still. Who was there? Azriel and Nesta. Nesta ain't gonna tell him shit. But why is Azriel still not telling him shit?
We don't know that he didn't tell him, though. We're going to get it in the ACOTAR book. We might see that Azriel's going back and telling him all this stuff if it's a tandem read in the ACOTAR book. I truly believe
If it's a tandem read. I don't have any hope that she's going to do a tandem read. I want her to, but I don't have hope that she's going to. I think she's just going to have us fill in the blanks like she's always done.
That's really upsetting because we really need that. Oh,
let me say one interesting thing to leave us off with.
Fine.
Which kind of circles back to Elriel a little, which I mentioned briefly before, but then I think we also get cut off and then we forgot.
Okay.
Okay. Azriel and Vesperus.
Okay.
Have you read that scene yet?
Not yet.
Okay. So we know.
Okay.
So we know that Truth Teller was Analius's dread trove item. It was Analius's knife. He was the first owner of it. We know that Vesperus created the Illyrians because she brings up Analius by name and she's like, Analius, that traitor, that was his knife, and all of that. So I find it, first of all, I find it funny that they gave Analius a knife that can tell the truth when the Asteri were liars. Like, they fucked themselves over there. Anyway, weird.
Yeah, that was stupid. Wait, so Vesperus like literally admits to making the Illyrians?
Pretty much. It's because she brings up Analius by name.
Okay.
And we know the Asteri made the Illyrians to fight on their behalf. Yeah, they were supposed to be angels, and they just kind of fucked up their wings. They made them dragon wings or bat wings, which, again, Ember and the dragon wings, that's another thing. But, so, Vesperus brings up Analius, says that's his knife, and then says, like, oh, I'm your master. She says, I'm your master, so she made them, obviously. And then, so he has the knife, and she's talking about Azriel, and she's like, you don't know how to wield our weapons. You have no idea the kind of power that they have. You've barely scratched the surface. And like, she's making fun of him for like, haha, you have no fucking idea how to tap into the power of that knife, even if you wanted to. And that got me concerned because then she starts to explain what the knife can actually do, which I love villain monologues. I love villain monologues because they're so stupid, because villains just love to brag.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have died without actually telling him any of this useful information.
Yeah.
But I love villain monologues. So she tells him that the knife was created, and I'm going to use the word failsafe, even though she didn't use it, but it was basically created as a failsafe for them for the cauldron. And she explains that the full power of Truth Teller is to unmake things.
Damn, that's a pretty woo. That's
which actually scared me. Because
is Elaine gonna be unmade? I don't
that
know.
is exactly where my thoughts went. I said before that if Elaine finds out that this knife can unmake things after her whole conversation with Amren, and how Amren is like, you can't go back to being human, girl. That's not possible. And like, even Amren didn't know Truth Teller was a part of the Dread Trove at the time. And the fact that Vesperus is like, the knife was created to unmake things. It was their failsafe for the cauldron. So,
oh boy,
Elaine finds out that fucking Truth Teller can unmake things, is she gonna like stab herself with it?
Herself. Oh my god.
Like, is she gonna stab herself with it? I don't want her to be a human again.
Oh my god. Oh my God. Holy shit, Melanie. Because listen, if she, listen to this, if she unmakes herself, would that sever the
The mate bond?
Elucien bond? And then would she and Tamlin end up together? Because then technically she's human. Beauty and the Beast ends up with a brunette, brown-haired human girl, and their temperaments fit as well. That would totally throw us off.
Yeah, but she doesn't, her whole thing is like, I don't want a male. Like, I want a man. Like, I'm worried that she's gonna fucking try to go back to Grayson.
He won't take her back, though.
But that was as a fae. He was like, I'll never have you. I don't want you. Like,
but would he take her back if she was human again?
Huh?
Would he take her back if she, even if she became a human? Like, is too much damage done? Is he gonna have another wife when she gets back? I don't know.
She still has the ring.
Holy, oh my God. This is
she
what's
has
happening.
The iron ring.
Elaine is unmaking herself.
Is she like, I'm scared because, or,
that's
hold
totally
on.
something Sarah would
wait,
do.
Wait. Or we're totally overthinking this, and everyone's supposed to think that it's supposed to be Elaine. But what if it actually is just the solution to Vass's curse? What if it can
But she's not made.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what Koshi is. We don't know what the death gods are. The death gods present as Asteri. They suck life. So if the knife unmakes things, if Koshi is unmade, or if his curse is severed by the knife, is that going to be the solution to Vass's curse? Because everyone's like, oh, Lucian's gonna solve the curse and they're gonna end up together, and but we already know that Lucian and Helion tried to solve the curse and they can't. Like, the two best spell cleavers, which, again, I'm so mad that we never have that scene of them working together, because come on, like, Lucian has to know.
So good.
But
so good.
They worked
bonus
together.
Chapter.
I know. Where's that bonus chapter, SJ?
Where's that bonus chapter?
They worked together to try to unbind her curse, and they couldn't do it. And if it's an Asteri spell, like, say, from the Highburn spellbook, if it's an original Asteri spell, and the death gods are Asteri / Daglin, and Koshi just has, like, a different, well, they all kind of had different type of magic. Again, we don't know what their original magic was, because it presented as white magic when they were connected to the cauldron and connected to all these other things, and when they had stolen magic. So Koshi's magic could be anything. Like, his curses could be made curses. Like, he could be drawing from the cauldron. Because if you remember in the bone carver scene, do you remember when they're looking for the cauldron, and Feyre, or is it Cassie? Oh no, it's Feyre. Feyre is asking the bone carver, where's the cauldron? And he said, oh, well, originally it was at the bottom of a lake in Lapland. We don't know where Lapland is. We don't know where Lapland is. We don't know what town Koshi's lake is in. I think it's Lapland. I think Koshi had the cauldron. I think he learned from it. I think he learned how to draw from it. That's how he curses people. And that's how he lures in these beautiful women that he collects. And I think Vass's curse is made. I think the knife is going to be the solution to Vass's curse.
Well, what if it's the solution to Vass's curse, but also it's what kills Koshi's lives? Like, he, like, hides his lives in, like, the eggs or whatever, right? Like, underneath the tree.
His soul, the 3 parts of his soul.
The soul or whatever. So what if we're gonna go like Harry Potter mode, kind of like with the Horcrux thing? So basically he's got like 3 different Horcruxes. Yeah. And we're gonna take Truth Teller and like just like, you know, break them off.
Well, you know how people are saying that there's gonna be a Kingdom of Ash type book? Have you heard that?
Read Kingdom of Ash, so
Well,
I
me
don't know
neither.
what that means.
But Kingdom of Ash is like everyone's POVs. It's like a big, like, not a multiverse, but a book with everyone in it, like a big war and all of that stuff. So unlike the
which was like CC3 basically, but gone.
Yeah, well, with Kochi, if it's like a Kingdom of Ash type thing, we could get the Kochi War. We could get Cassian dying. We could get Vass's curse being solved by the knife. We could get Gwen and Azriel as the Little Mermaid retelling because he's literally in a lake. What if she has to go down there and retrieve something his soul is in to help them? She's part nymph. She would be the only one who could technically get it, right? And then if Azriel feels the mate bond snap, he goes after her. We know from CC3 that people with wings can't really swim well. If he almost drowns and she's already in there, she's going to save him like Prince Eric. That's the Little Mermaid retelling. The bond snaps.
Oh my god.
And then we have Kochi as basically the Ursula, trying to like kill them all, and I'm cursing this person and I'm collecting all these beautiful females, kind of like how Ursula collected, like, she didn't really collect people, but she collected like talents. Like she wanted Ariel's singing and she had like all these different people, whatever, you know, in like these little pods or whatever. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Kochi's going to be the connector to from the Gwynriel to the Elucien book.
Okay.
And in between that, to obviously fuck with us and be like, oh, you have to wait after the huge cliffhanger. She's going to throw in the Mor and Eris past novella and everything about Valahan in the middle. And then the Valahan thing is going to kind of loosely connect back to the Kochi thing. And then we're going to resume in Elucien's book.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the Elucien side of it. It's going to be the Elucien side of it, where Lucian's going to be Yvonne, and he's going to try to take Elaine, and they're going to be searching for what, like, the last portion of his soul. And like I said before, I think it would be really cool if it was actually in the rose that Papa Archeron made that's on his grave. And we know that Kochi resurrects somebody to fuck with people. I think Papa A is going to be resurrected to fuck with people. Or, like, at least, like, not the hologram, but kind of like how the Puka showed up as him to Feyre. I feel like he's going to fuck with them in that way. Like, guess what? I resurrected your dad, so if you let me get what I want, I'll let him live again. And, like, it's going to be Gwynriel, Little Mermaid, Kochi, fucking intermission with Mor and Eris going back to Akawar and the Valahan thing, connecting back, resuming, and into the Elucien book. I don't know.
I like it. I mean, there's a lot to think about with that.
And, like, that could somehow connect back to, like, Elaine coming into her full power and then maybe helping fully restore Spring, and then Hamlin's book at the end to bring it full circle if we're going to do that. So, but yeah, I read that line about the knife, and I read it, and I literally put my book down, and I was like,
You're so
I guess if she
I will, if she takes it in that direction though, and like Elaine makes herself human again, I'm gonna be so disappointed.
I'm gonna be so mad.
I'm gonna be so mad.
I'm just hoping that that's what she wants us to think, and that she's just gonna do like, yeah, like, oh, it's the solution to the curse, or because if you think about it, like,
no. Now I'm more sick. Now I'm just like, oh my god.
If you think about it, I mean,
that's what she's doing.
Who else? Like I said, it's usually never the obvious thing, as we know.
It's not the obvious. It's gonna be like, the opposite of what you think it's gonna be. It's the opposite. Always.
What if what if that's how Nesta slices the meat bun? I don't know.
I don't know.
Or
Oh my
or what
God.
if
Okay.
like I'm just trying to think like it unmakes things when
Well, what else
activated.
is made? You have to think about it.
Who could fully activate it? Is it gonna be Nesta? Is it gonna be like who's gonna be able to fully activate it?
I don't know. And I don't
To
know, Melanie.
unmake something.
It's gonna be Elaine. That's the only thing that needs to be
Stop it.
unmade. That's the only thing. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No. Unless Koshi resurrects Jesminda for Lucian, no. Because
She's gonna break our hearts. You know she is. She does it every time. She did it in this last book. And we have to wait 2 more years for the next book.
But like she loves Lucian. That's why I don't know why she's doing
She
this.
doesn't though. I don't think she does love Lucian.
She said in interviews like, "Oh, I love Lucian. Like, I was pleasantly surprised when I put him with Elaine, and they would go to this museum, and they would do this, and like, like Lucian needs his happily ever after. I don't care if it's with Elaine or with Jesminda.
Yeah.
If Jesminda came back, that would be super cute, and I probably wouldn't care if Elaine chose to be human. But if that doesn't happen, it better be Elucien.
Yeah.
Because this man needs his happy ever after.
Amen. Amen to that. Because there's nothing else that needs to be said besides the fact that Lucian needs a happily ever after.
As
Amen.
does Gwynriel.
I love it. I can't wait to see. I'm so excited either way. So
I really can't believe that I never brought up the Phelan mirrors to you before because I thought I did.
You've never brought it up. Ever. That's a really big deal. That's okay. I was gonna say that's a big deal to me, but it's
like months.
I
months. I totally thought. I told you.
No, definitely not.
You were like
shocked. I'm shocked by it.
Oh, you guys
think
it makes sense though.
It does make sense.
I know. Hello.
Hi guys.
We're back again. We are back. Yeah, so I basically put on the Instagram that this episode is kind of about ships and other sort of things that connect to ships. As you can tell, I'm in my Lucian shirt because yesterday I did Gwen, today I'm doing Lucian.
Love it.
We technically left off. First of all, I made this sweatshirt.
You guys, her sweatshirts and her shirts are the best. And she has a shop on Etsy. Tell them what it is.
I do. It's quartzofmerch.etsy.com. And you can order this sweatshirt and a bunch of others and other shirts and other different types of merch. These sweatshirts are drop shipped and the rest I actually make at my house. I sublimate things at my house. So there's that.
You have to get them. I have the Cassian shirt and it's like so soft, you guys. I wear it like all the time when I go to sleep. Like it's just like so soft, so comfortable. I love my sweatshirt. I wear it to the park when I go with my kids. Like it's awesome. So
I have this one. I've worn my Tamlin one that I showed you guys.
I love the Tamlin one.
Yeah, I love the Tamlin one too. So like I make these things and then I'm like, I'm gonna get one for myself.
Don't mind if I just put this on the printer.
I'm like, I'm designing them for everyone, but they're really for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my crown matches the crown on Lucian.
I love it. And you know, I have such a soft spot for Lucian. He's like so great to me. So
I love him. But jumping back into where we left off.
Yeah.
Which is not the happiest place to be. But the whole Elaine possibly unmaking herself.
Oh, I went to bed last night thinking about that for like hours. I couldn't go to sleep. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So upset.
I collected quotes today.
Did you really?
To my detriment.
I want to hear all of them because I'm actually really interested in
for whatever reason, I think I probably just didn't want to think about it, but I feel like every time I read ACOWAR, I feel like I completely blocked out the scene when the cauldron comes and lures Elaine away, because in my head, it's Elaine's idea and she's thinking of the cauldron and like somehow she finds it, like how she kind of scries during the war. And I don't know why I got that like so wrong, because the cauldron comes to her and to everybody else. And the cauldron actually puts, like, it's weird because Feyre seems like the seer in that scene because she's seeing it in her dream. And that it's happening in Feyre's dream. And then she wakes up and then Amren's running over and Nesta's running over. And like, it's the maid people, basically, that can see and hear it. And Nesta's like, do you hear it? Do you hear it? And she's like, I didn't hear it, but I felt it. And then she's like, oh, I saw in my dream what it was showing Elaine, which was weird to me because
Feyre said that?
Yeah. So either Elaine was subconsciously channeling her seer power to Feyre and Nesta, or Elaine was channeling, or Feyre was channeling Elaine, kind of like she does with Rhys with the cauldron, subconsciously when she was asleep. I don't know which way, but I found it really odd that Feyre had the premonition.
I was going to say that is really odd because you're right. She doesn't have any seer powers. I don't consider Feyre, I guess she's maid, I suppose, but it's not.
Yeah, it's confirmed.
But it's not the same. So you're saying she's maid, even though she's made from the High Lords, but like,
yeah,
I thought that the High Lords and the Cauldron were different powers.
Well, the High Fae were made with the Cauldron, and so their power is made with the Cauldron.
From the Cauldron.
So their power, she's made.
Okay. So
because remember, like the whole mural, the cauldron spills out, and that's how all the Fae were created.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. My other question to you is, you said that Amren was made. Yeah. But I don't feel like Amren's made because she transformed her body on her own.
Oh, she is made. And that is one of the points that I have been waiting to bring up for weeks.
So you just like kind of snuck it in there, like, oh, Feyre's made, Nesta's made Amren. Are you guys listening now?
Well, like the first time that Amren meets Feyre, she's like, you're different like me. We're both made. And so I was like, okay. Like, then we didn't really know her backstory. So we're like, oh, weird to know her backstory or whatever. And then we learn her backstory. And then we learn her backstory again, and that she was lying the first time she told them. So, like, what is her actual story? Is she just going to keep lying? Because if she bound herself to a body, how is she made?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
That's why I'm convinced that she was a Steri. Some sort of a Steri, like Vesperus. I have all these quotes. They're really weird, but like Vesperus. And you have to remember that Amren was the one who tricked Feyre into touching the cauldron.
I do remember that. She lied to her. And Feyre said it. She's like, you lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
You're a liar.
And she couldn't let go. Like, she couldn't stop siphoning the cauldron. So I feel like Amren really had to know the cauldron to know that it wouldn't let her go. And Amren is the only one who could read the Book of Breathings, which the Asteri created.
True. Listen, I've been saying Amren's Asteri since like
forever.
Well,
we thought she was serious, but apparently she isn't.
I know, but she came out as SJM came out saying she's like an old Testament
No, she's
angel.
retconning that shit. Come on.
So you think she's retconning Amren? She said she was an angel. We have the angels. Hunt is an angel. We have them.
She said that she was a biblical angel, which is different because biblical angels can take all different kinds of forms. Like some of them are super ugly, some of them are like fire, some of them are this. So like Amren's was fire, right? But you also have to remember that we actually don't know what the Asteri look like in their pure forms.
That's true. That's true.
So
True.
And as we've been saying, the sun is the biggest star. So if Amren was literally just an explosion of fire and light, she could have been sunlight, starlight, like the Asteri were said to be stars. They were literally said to be stars. That's why they were named after stars.
I love that they're stars, by the way. I don't know why, I just really like it. But they're like awful. They're like so terrible. So I also had another thought cross my mind. I just wanted to bounce off you, not to sidetrack. But I know that we're talking about like Amren possibly being a Asteri, like she can read the Book of Breathings. As Jan was saying, she's an angel. But when you think of that scene where she throws herself in the cauldron and she unbinds herself from her body, right? And she comes out of the cauldron and like, I don't know why to me, I see her as this like massive bird of like fire. Phoenix of fire.
Yeah.
And she's like sweeping over the field.
Yeah. That's what biblical angels could look like.
Yeah. And that's how I envisioned her. But then I was like, is she a Thunderbird?
Well, the Thunderbirds, they weren't actually birds. Like, I don't know why
they were called Thunderbirds.
I don't know why the fuck Apollyon named them that.
They weren't even a bird, and they didn't have any
I think Apollyon's like baseline of thinking was like, oh, okay, so they have lightning power, like the thunder god Thur. So thunder. The angels have wings. They look like birds to me. I'm gonna call them a Thunderbird. So I feel like that was like Apollyon was a fucking, you know.
He sounds like an idiot. He's kind of like the idiot. Like he like assaults Jessica. He calls them Thunderbirds. Like
yeah, he's like the dopey brother. So I think that's where they get their name from.
Okay, because I was like, she's a bird. She's a Thunderbird. Maybe she's a liar. Like I don't know. Yeah. Like she.
So I'm wondering if that's not to sidetrack and not to bother you by bringing up Koshi again, but I'm wondering if Koshi turning Vasa into the Firebird was some sort of omen to like Amren.
I don't think so, because it doesn't have anything to do. I mean, Koshi and Amren aren't related. Like they're not.
They're both 15,000 years old. They both got there at the same time. That's the whole thing with Amren. We don't know really who she is, why she's there. We know she tried to convince Rhys to become High King now because Thea and Theon were High King and High Queen. Again, I don't think that Rhys knows yet. But Amren never fucking told him.
I was actually just thinking about that when you were saying that. I think that I actually disagree with you. I think Amren has told him about like Theon and Thea. Like he knows. Rhys knows.
He knew about Theon. Everyone knew about Theon. Thea was the one that was cut out of the history. I don't think she told him about Thea because I think Thea or Selene, which I'm thinking more Selene now, were the ones to put her in the prison.
It doesn't add up though, because
that's the whole point. Amren's story doesn't add up.
But the timeline.
Oh, I lied.
The timeline's off.
Oh, I lied. Like, stop lying. Just tell us who the fuck you are.
But it's funny because she knew exactly who Thea and Theon were. She knew them.
She knew exactly that the Daglin were Asteri right off the bat.
Oh yeah, she's like, this isn't our history. We know this, but it's weird because when she says it, it's like she's read it. She hasn't lived it. Do you know what I'm saying?
She's very sneaky.
You think she's lived it? And I think it's interesting that Amren is his second in command, and I think it's because of her knowledge, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah, he's like, she knows stuff. And even Bryce is like, she seems to know stuff. Is she a scholar?
Yeah.
No, she fucking lived it. Like
So
Jessica.
I think she lived it, and I personally think she told him everything. I think he knows everything.
But then he would have known about Thea. We had no indication at all of Thea in Akatar, only Crescent City. And Crescent City did not know about Theon. Akatar did not know about Thea.
I thought we kind of knew about Thea a little. Like she was like brought up a little bit in Akatar.
Mm-mm.
Remember?
Mm-mm. She's never named in Akatar. Only Theon. Only Theon. Because she was written out of their history because she was the traitor. She chose the Asterian hell over everyone else.
Yeah.
She's the one that blocked them out. So whoever, by word of mouth, whoever passed it down did not want her in their history. So they're like, oh, Theon slayed the Daglin, and Theon did this, and Theon did that. So they knew nothing about Thea. She was written out of their history. That's why they've never seen the tunnels or the depictions on the cave walls, or they didn't know that it was Dusk because Thea and like her kids were just written out.
I have to say, I'm very intrigued how, like, why she would have written it like that, right? Because, like, why would you, if I were the High Lords in Prithian, I would not write Thea out. And instead, I would use and make an example of her. And I would make her into the villain of every story because truly she was the villain. She was the villain of Prithian until she met Adis and things changed around and she saw the error in her ways. But she was a horrible person. But, like, so I wouldn't write her out. And I think they did a really big disservice to everyone in Prithian doing that. Because if Feyre then, okay, so like you fast forward, so say everyone talked about Thea, 15,000 years, we don't have a High Lady because of Thea. It makes sense.
I was just going to say that the mother basically did not put any more women in charge because of Thea.
And honestly, like rightfully so. Like yes and no. I don't know. It's like a
until now she's like, Nesta can handle this shit.
Nesta can handle it. I think that had they kept Thea's storyline there, that in Feyre got to the Spring Court and like that whole conversation with Tamlin and Feyre, she would have been like, oh, I understand. I understand why there are no High Ladies. It's because of Thea. Like it would just have made so much more sense. And she wouldn't have made such like a crazy rash decision based off so little information and knowledge. But that's how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I just continually think it's hilarious that the mother was like, Feyre can't handle being a High Lady. Like, he can call her that all she wants, but like, she ain't my High Lady. The mother, and then the mother's like, see, she ruined a court out of pettiness. That ain't my High Lady. Nesta, come here, bitch.
I love that.
Because even when Nesta turned Fae, all during ACOWAR, like even if she was a bitch to like everyone around her, she was like, we need to help the humans, we need to help the humans, we need to help like she didn't forget where she came from. Whereas Feyre, like, she's making fun of Lucien for being friends with humans. Like, you're a human, bitch.
It's interesting because Feyre initially was the one to kind of like lead the charge for the humans, like in Akamath, but like
and as she was so traumatized with killing anyone, and then like she becomes mated to Rhys, and she's like, oh, I can just kill off the whole Spring Court for what they did to me. Like, what did they do to you?
Yeah, it was really interesting.
As Tamlin,
yes, and that's something that you see, but like I feel like I see that a lot in like all of these books is like the female character can't appropriately assign who she has her problem with. She takes it out on groups of people and not the singular person, right?
I know. Yeah. I was going over the whole Vesperus scene again, or not the whole Vesperus scene, but little chunks of it again.
Yeah.
And it's very unfinished. It's very holy shit, what's gonna happen in the next Akatar book.
What makes you say that? Like, why are you?
Because I guess there's so first of all, I was doing screenshots for my theories earlier or whatever, and so everyone's fighting about how it's only been weeks since Akasif, and it's only been weeks, but we literally, and I screenshot it and I put it up, Nesta literally says I slew one of their contemporaries about 7 months ago. That's Lanthys. And then she goes on to talk about Lanthys. But the thing about Lanthys is she says, Nesta says, I don't know anything about them. I slew one of their contemporaries about 7 months ago. So Bryce then says, so not in a stary Daglin, I mean. Asriel shifted. Nesta glanced sidelong at him, marking the movement, but then turned to Bryce. I don't think so. The creature, Lanthys, was a breed unto himself. He was horrible. Bryce angled her head. How did you kill him? Nesta said nothing. Bryce's gaze lifted to the sword hilt peeking above the warrior's shoulder. With that, Nesta just said its name is ataraxia. That's an old language word. Nesta nodded. Bryce murmured, inner peace. That's your sword's name? Lanthys laughed at it when he heard it too. I'm not laughing, Bryce said, meeting her stare. So there's just in that one little thing, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
So one, as I said, Akasif is at least 7 months ago. I don't know how anyone can fight that when it's literally in the book. At least 7 months ago.
I know. I've been seeing them fighting about the timeline of the book on Facebook.
Yeah.
I won't go on Facebook anymore because I'm like, I can't read this. I'm done.
2, I don't think he was a stary. He was a breed unto himself. However, Lanthys bled black, just like the Valg. And, as we see later, just like Vesperus. But Vesperus then claims that she is the original Evening Star, that she is Hesperus.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what doesn't make sense.
I don't get it.
Because also there's the argument of like the Valg from Hell, right? Hell versus the Asteri.
They have nothing
Throne
to
of
do
Glass.
with the Valg.
I know. So I can't quite figure out what's going on. Like,
and then Asriel shifted, Nesta marked the movement.
so what's going on with Asriel there? I don't understand that.
What is going on with Asriel during this whole thing? He knows so much shit. And I'm telling you, he never fucking told anyone. And it goes all the way back to Akamath, which is what I say all the fucking time. Asriel will never trust me with fucking Amren. He knows shit. You can't tell me the guy with the dagger that can tell the truth has never fucking asked Amren questions and been like, she's a fucking liar, and like kept it to himself.
That's a really good point because he's like the blade, right? Like he can feel when people are lying.
Yeah.
So she just must be talking and it just must be like going off and he's like,
Asriel will never trust me. And like, why should we, bitch? I lied. But then like, you also have to think like, if Amren is Rhys's second.
Yeah, it's weird.
Is he going to take her side because she's powerful? Because Rhys is kind of scared of her. Rhys is also scared of her. I also went over this scene, which again, I'll go over later, but I also went over the scene when Elaine was asking her about the body and that.
I was just going to bring that up.
And he went from like pissed to kind of terrified when she's like, oh yeah, I lied. Like I lied about the body thing. And he was like, what? He was like,
what was his reaction in that scene again? I can't remember. Like they were at dinner, right? Everyone was eating.
So the first time when she's telling the story and he's like, as your High Lord, I'm ordering you to tell me, because it was about when they saw the bone carver and how she was like, why the fuck did you ask the bone carver questions and not me? And she was pissed. Yeah. You remember she was pissed that they asked the bone carver and not her?
No, and I don't remember her being pissed off about that.
Yeah. She was. So Rhys was like, okay, well then as your High Lord, I'm telling you to tell us what happened. And then she's like, call off your dog. Because like Asriel was in the shadows with Truth Teller. And I don't know now, reading over that scene, if she knows about Truth Teller or not. Because I read that over today. Because I read that over today and I was like, oh, so does she know about Truth Teller? Was this her knowing about Truth Teller? Call off your dog?
Your dog. Why? Because she doesn't like the fact that Az is there with like trying to see if she's
He was
lying
like
or not.
gripping the hilt of like readying in case Amren did something because he doesn't trust her. And Reese was giving her an order, and like she's the oldest, she doesn't like being ordered around.
None of them do.
It was great.
It's a great. She does such a good job at like. See, that's what's so confusing about Crescent State 3. She does this amazing job of all these details in like Throne of Glass and in Akatar, and but that's why CC3 was such kind of like a little bit of a slip up because you're like, what is going on in here? But
the more I read it, the more I think that like she's really super playing the long game, and like all of these books she's just putting in more hints and more hints and more hints and more hints, but like what is the end game? When are we finally gonna see the payoff?
Yeah, because I think the problem was like maybe that's what we thought was going to happen in this book because it was marketed to us like that. Like we were going to get all of our answers in this book, but I think you're right. Maybe it is in the long game and we won't get it until Twilight of the Gods. Another thing I wanted to bring up really quick is, you remember when I love it. Is that the scene when someone looks at her? I can't remember if it's Elaine or Nesta, and they asked her about, I can't remember what it was. They asked her about something, and
her eyes.
I think so.
Nesta
and Amren was like
about her eyes, and Elaine asks about her body.
Well, to one of them, she replied, "No one has ever asked me that question because it's rude, and they're all scared of me." And then she said,
"Nesta,
yeah,
didn't care, and she just stared her down."
And then she said, "I have to say that I do like the Archeron sisters." I do and I don't, but they're the only ones who are just like not afraid to ask these really blunt and like kind of
really don't give two fucks.
They don't. They ask kind of these like really personal and rude questions, and like they don't give a shit. They just
don't give a
wait
shit
for the answer.
I know.
But like you remember, like she was saying, like I'm what the high fae, or like I'm what people tell their children. I'm the bedtime story.
Lucian says Amren was the bedtime stories that we got told as kids to keep us in line.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Lucian's so scared of her.
Lucian, I remember he was like looking out the window. I think at the House of Wind, and like Nesta asked a question, like it was like Lucian like stilled. Yeah.
He's so scared. He's like, Amren was our bedtime story that they would tell us to scare the shit out of us to keep us in line.
I love it. So I'm like, what is she? That like, what was that story? I kind of want to hear it. Like, I want to know what they were saying.
The whole like putting lamb's blood over their thing so she wouldn't kill them in the night. Like that goes back to like the Bible or whatever.
I know it does.
Yeah. It says okay. This is funny. Amren, they're talking about the Ouroboros and what happened with the bone carver. You're talking about the Ouroboros, Amren said. I blinked. Shit. Why do you want that mirror? Her voice had slipped to a low timbre. Reese slid his free hand into his pocket. If honesty is the theme of the night, because the bone carver requested it. Amren's nostrils flared. You went to the prison. Your old friends say hello, Cassian drawled, leaning a shoulder against the archway.
I love Cassian. I love him there.
Amren's face tightened, Nesta glancing between them carefully, reading us, especially as Amren's quicksilver eyes swirled. Why did you go? I opened my mouth, but the gold of Lucian's eye caught my attention and snared it. My hesitation must have been indication enough of my wariness. Jaw tight with a hint of frustration, Lucian excused himself to his room. He's like, the fuck I ain't staying here with this bitch.
I'm out. He's like, I'm scared, I'm going.
Frustration and perhaps disappointment in me. I blocked it out and what it did to my stomach.
Is that fair? Yeah.
Fucking can't stand when she does that shit.
Anyway. I know.
We had some questions for the carver. Cassian gave Amren a slash of a smile when Lucian was gone. And we have some for you. Amren's smoke-filled eyes flared. Also, like, kind of dragon-coated still, too.
Mm-hmm. and she likes jewels. Like, she's a total dragon.
Calls her a fire drake. I love that. You are going to unleash the carver. Yes, a one-monster army. That is impossible. I'll remind you that you, sweet Amren, escaped, Rhys countered smoothly, and have stayed free, so it can be done. Perhaps you can tell us how you did it. Cassian stationed himself by the doorway. I realized to be closer to Nesta to grab her if Amren decided she didn't particularly care for where this conversation was headed or for any of the furniture in this room. Precisely why Rhys now placed himself on Amren's other side to draw her attention away from me and more behind us, every muscle in her lithe body on alert. Cassian was staring at Nesta hard enough that my sister at last twisted toward him, met his gaze, his head tilted slightly, a silent order. Nesta, to my shock, obeyed and drifted over to his side as Amren replied to Rhys, "No, it was not a request," Rhys said. He once admitted that merely questioning Amren had been something she'd allow him to do only in recent years, but giving her an order, pushing her like this, ... Feyre and Cassian spoke to the Bone Carver. He wants the Ouroboros in exchange for serving us and fighting Hybern for us, but we need you to explain how to get him out. The bargain Rhys or I would strike with him would suffice to hold him to our will. Anything else? Her voice was too calm, too sweet. When we're done with all of this, then my promise from months ago still holds. You can use the book to send yourself home if you want. Now, the Asteri and the Death Gods, I'm pretty sure, have the same home planet because we compared Rigelis's description of the barren home planet to the Bone Carvers. Pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Right? So Amren has to be from their same planet. Right?
Yes. I think so.
The only thing that pisses me off about Amren is, who is her father, or was she lying about that part?
I know that's the only thing that doesn't make sense, and it wouldn't add up as an Asteri unless the gods are their father somehow.
Yeah,
but they are gods themselves.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if the Princes of Hell can, like, make Hunt and make the Crystallos demon, like, couldn't the Asteri do the same thing with their essence? So Amren could technically just be a Asteri creation.
She could be.
Call off your dog, Amren said with a lethal tone, because the shadow in the corner behind Amren, that was Azriel, the obsidian hilt of Truth-Teller in his scarred hand. He'd moved without my realizing it, though I had no doubt the others had likely been aware. Amren bared her teeth at him. Azriel's beautiful face didn't so much as shift. Rhys remained where he was as he asked Amren, "Why won't you tell us?" Because the stone beneath this house has ears, the wind has ears, all of it listening, and if it reports back, they will remember, Rhysand, that they have not caught me, and I will not let them put me in the black pit again.
Wait a second.
Fucking Vesperus!
I was just gonna say.
Fucking Vesperus! And I meant to say this a couple weeks ago. Is the heart beating in the stone also Vesperus?
Vesperus
was like, I can hear your heart beating through the stone. But it's weird because her coffin was, the floor was technically stone, I guess. Yeah.
It was.
Or
that's
is
exactly.
Is it Vesperus? It could have been Vesperus.
It has to be Vesperus. Who else was in the stone?
I'm telling you, she never fucking told him about this shit. She does not want anyone connecting her to the Asteri. And if Vesperus created the Illyrians, maybe she created Amren.
So can you read that quote one more time? Because I just thought it was just so good. So Amren is scared of Vesperus. She's scared of being caught or
put back in the prison with her.
Interesting.
The stone beneath this house has ears. The wind has ears, all of it listening. And if it reports back, they will remember, Rhysand, that they have not caught me, and I will not let them put me in that black pit again.
So
they
The problem with that is that they aren't in the prison, and Vespers was in the prison. So who in recent
but
house?
Vespers also says that she was drawing magic from the land, and the land was drawing it from her. She's talking about wanting to go free. And she says, if I were to say that I have no wish to rule, only to live, Bryce says you'd still be a leech who would need to feed on these people you don't deserve to go free. And then Vespera says, they have a place in this land for creatures like me, the unwanted. It is called the Middle. I have dreamt of it and seen it in my long slumber. That's not my decision to make. And then, this was the thing that I didn't catch the first time. Vespera says, she looks at Nesta, and she says, then use the crown that made scum over there possesses. You could forge a path to enact your vision by clearing the minds of those before you.
Say that one more time. Repeat that.
So
The
she
made
basically calls
scum?
Nesta scum. Yeah. She calls Nesta scum because she was made by the cauldron. Use the crown that she possesses. You could forge a path to enact your own vision by clearing the minds of those before you.
By clearing the minds of those before you? What does that mean?
Well, the crown, you can control people with the crown.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Technically, if you have the crown and you wanted to be a Daemati, you could be a Daemati. Clear the minds.
Can we also talk about for a second, like I just got to appreciate because the Archeron sisters, I love them. They're put on a pedestal, but like compared to Bryce, they're still underneath Bryce. Like Vespers is like, yo, I see like Queen in you, and then but I love Nesta, but like she looks.
You made scum.
You're below Bryce, Nesta. In that series eyes, let's just be real.
So Amren knows that Vespers is listening and seeing everything. And that's not the first time that she mentions like the wind has ears and blah, blah, blah. That's why Azriel will never trust me. And like Azriel also has the sixth sense, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's telling Reese shit, and I kind of love it, but at the same time, I'm frustrated by it because I don't know why. But
well, we don't know that they're not telling him shit. We don't know that because Azriel
we know that he doesn't know. Like even in the scene in Akawar, he has no clue what they're talking about.
We don't know that. We don't know that
because he's questioning Amren. He has no clue.
Or is he just a really good actor? And also in CC3, they were making a point of it to show that like Azriel and Reese are having a lot of conversations like Daemati, like mind to mind. You know, just because we don't see it.
But like, I feel if Reese knew where the fucking first light, if he knew there were first light cores under fucking Ramiel and shit, he would. Come on, you don't think he's like power hungry? Like he can say, I don't want to be High King. I don't want to be High King. But
no, I don't think he would go. I don't. He's not ambitious enough. Like I think like he likes to think he's ambitious, but when you look at what Rhysand does, all he wants to do is stay in Valeris and like be with his mate, and that's it. And do nothing. Like he's kind of just like he's not very ambitious, and in that sense, like he's not like I don't think he's a power hungry. You know what I mean? Like I need the first light core. Like I could see him being like, I know the first light core.
Then how come? Okay. Then how come? Because we don't get an on-page scene. Until we get an on-page scene of someone talking about it with him, I don't think he knows anything. So,
but there are scenes of him Daematiing with Azriel. We don't know what's going on.
No, not after the initial thing with Bryce. There isn't. There isn't. And Nesta and Azriel didn't tell him that he's related to Bryce, as we know. So they didn't tell him everything else then. Because then they'd have to explain how the fuck he's related to her. They didn't tell him.
I don't understand why you wouldn't tell him that. Like that kind of pisses me off, actually.
Anyways, Therap says, my ears hollowed out and a shield clicked into place. No one will hear beyond this room. Amren surveyed the books lying forgotten on the low table in the sitting room. Her brows narrowed. I had to give something up. I had to give me up To walk out, I had to become something else entirely, something the prison would not recognize. So I bound myself into this body. I had never heard Amren stumble over her words before. You said someone else bound you, Reese said carefully. I lied to cover up what I'd done, so none would know. To escape the prison, I made myself mortal. Immortal as you are, but mortal compared to what I was. And what I was, ... I did not feel the way you do, the way I do now. Some things, loyalty and wrath and curiosity, but not the full spectrum. Again, that faraway look. I was perfect according to some. I did not regret, did not mourn, and pain, I did not experience it. And yet I wound up here because I was not quite like the others. Even as what I was different, too curious, too questioning. The day the rip appeared in the sky, it was curiosity that drove me. My brothers and sisters fled. Upon the orders of our ruler, we had just laid waste to twin cities, smote them wholly into rubble on the plain, and yet they fled from that rip in the world. But I wanted to look. I wanted. I was not built or bred to feel such selfish things as want. I'd seen what happened to those of my kind who strayed, who learned to place their needs first, who developed feeling. But I went through the tear in the sky, and here I am. So I'm reading that, and I don't know. Like, I don't know how they're all connected. It's bothering me so much.
I know. No, Amren's. I like Amren
Because
more
the Asteri
after
feel
this book.
pain, right?
I don't. Do they?
I mean,
They didn't seem like they felt it to me.
I mean, they did when Bryce blasted them with Starlight, they did, and when she like stabbed Polaris. But it was like with a made weapon, so
I know.
it
doesn't. It's funny because it doesn't add up. Like it doesn't. Like her story doesn't add up to being unnecessary completely, but there's a lot of similarities. So
But the whole brothers and sisters thing.
I know.
Like, and then she says, I yielded my grace, my perfect immortality. I knew that once I did, I would feel pain and regret. I would want and I would burn with it. I would fall from grace. The halo.
Mm-hmm.
But the time locked away down there. I didn't care. I had not felt the wind on my face, had not smelled the rain. I did not even remember what they felt like. I did not remember sunlight. It was to Asriel that her attention drifted, the Shadow Singer's darkness pulling away to reveal eyes full of understanding, locked away.
I love Az.
So I bound myself into this body. I shoved my burning grace deep into me. I gave up everything I was. The cell door just unlocked. So I walked out. A burning grace that still smoldered far within her, visible only through the smoke in her gray eyes. That will be the cost of freeing the Carver. You will have to bind him into a body, make him Fae, and I doubt he will agree to it, especially without the Ouroboros. Can you be unbound? Not by me. What would happen if you were? I would not remember you. I would not care for any of you. I would either smite you or abandon you. What I feel now, it would be foreign to me. It would hold no sway. Everything I am, this body, it would cease to be. What were you? Nesta breathed. Amren toyed with one of her earrings, a messenger, a soldier, assassin for a wrathful god who ruled a young world. So, as I was reading this, I was thinking, was Amren an archangel? Was she Pollux, basically?
I thought about that. She was an assassin. Yeah, she's an assassin, a messenger. Yeah,
because like
a soldier.
Pollux,
felt
fucking nothing. Like none of the archangels did. That's why they were created by the Asteri to be soldiers. Soldier assassins.
Look at Micah. Micah felt nothing except for ambition.
Micah, Sandriel,
and
Celestina. Shahar? Is that who she was referencing here? when she says, hold on.
We had just laid
I'd
waste.
seen what happened to those of my kind who strayed, who learned to place their needs first, who developed feelings.
Actually,
they killed her.
They did
killed her.
They did kill her. And she did. Wait, also, not just Shahar like Hunt. Did Amren ever see Hunt in CC3? I'm about like halfway through.
No.
Did she ever? She never saw him?
No. But so
would Amren know Hunt?
I don't know. Was during that rebellion, was there a rip? Like, did
that open?
The rift open during the rebellion? Amren's an archangel. So like Sarah didn't lie.
I think that makes them.
That makes sense.
It makes the most sense.
Oh my god.
Her father would be Rigelus, right?
One of the Asteri, yeah, basically.
But the problem with that.
But she's like, oh, my father let me go through the rift. He knew, like, Rigelus would never.
No, that's the problem there. I was just thinking that.
Unless she was like a second generation. Because, like, technically, Alex could have had kids with Lydia. Like, any of the archangels could have had kids. So, there could have been one kind of like Lydia, technically, that's playing the long game, pretending to be, you know, who they're supposed to be, and are not actually as evil, and still carrying out the Asteri's plans like Lydia was. Who let her go through the rift. He's like,
let her go through.
Go.
There's that part, and I can't remember if it's like Aqua or a different book. Do you remember how originally she said originally when it opened and my father let me go through, I thought he was being kind and like it was like a mercy to me. But then she had like more reflection on it, and she's like, but now I'm not so sure. Like she like didn't know his motives. So what if he let her through that rift being like, you are going to be my spy in this next world so that we can take over, or like you're going to get in there, you're going to make friends because you're going to let us in.
Which mirrors, if I'm right, Fury and Thanatos.
And Fury, we still don't even know about. We still
Fury.
Fury. Because then there were people saying
Thanatos' kid and therefore Hunt's sister.
Yeah, that's crazy that he has it's crazy that he has a stepsister somewhere, like a half sister.
Like what the fuck?
You know she's bringing that in future books.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for it.
We're gonna totally meet the half sister somewhere.
Unless it's just fucking Amren.
Which would be interesting.
Because remember how I was like, oh, what if Amren was like with Thanatos and then Fury is their kid or whatever? But what if Thanatos is her father? Found a way to be in Hewn City, and that's how she gets access to all the trove and everything. And like, what if her father didn't stay behind? What if he went with her? Because
that would be my hang up on it. It's like Thanatos is there and he's in Hewn City. He could call her back. He knows she's there. She would know she was there.
I don't know.
Unless SJM hasn't really thought this out, I don't know. Because it's all over the place. Like when you think about it, my best thing is I like that you said that she could have been a Pollux. Like that's my favorite thing because it makes sense to me.
It makes total sense because like it's just hard because I mean they do harp on like, oh, they're pristine white wings and they're supposed to be so holy and so perfect and all of this stuff. But like when Lydia incinerated him, wasn't he kind of screaming or did he just turn to ash? I don't remember. I haven't reached that part yet.
I'm behind you.
Okay.
I'm still going through it. I like
if he doesn't scream and he just like turns to ash, then I'd be like, he didn't feel pain.
Maybe.
But I know we sidestepped to Amren, but back to Elaine real quick. and the Anyway. In Hofas, so I'm going to say a couple of these quotes and then I want to know what you think.
Okay.
So in Hofas, it says this is with Vesperus. Vesperus took another step, steadier now, and smiled past Bryce at Azriel at Truth Teller. You don't know how to use it, do you? Azriel pointed the dagger toward the advancing Asteri. Pretty sure this end's the one that'll go through your gut.
I love him.
Fucking love him. Vesperus chuckled, her dark hair swaying with each step inching closer. Typical of your kind. You want to play with our weapons, but have no concept of their true abilities. Your mind couldn't hold all the possibilities at once.
All the possibilities?
Yeah. And then I misspoke the last time we filmed because I thought that Vesperus explained about Truth Teller. But you know who actually explained fully about Truth Teller? Fucking Einar.
Einar
Fucking
did?
Einar. Because I was going over it again. I was like, I know, it's like Vesperus. And then I was like, and then I just searched Unmade or whatever. And I go, it wasn't fucking Vesperus. It was fucking Einar.
That's right. Because he was talking about.
It says this, he was like going back and forth, Bryce. And then he says, the Star Sword is made, as you called it. He waved an idle hand, sparks at his fingertips. The knife can unmake things, made and unmade, matter and antimatter. With the right influx of power, a command from the one destined to wield them, they can be merged, and they can create a place where no life, no light exists, a place that is nothing and nowhere. So he was talking about the black pits, the black holes to send the Asteri through. Why is he dead without explaining himself? I'm like annoyed.
You know how I feel about Einar's story. Like
I think
I for that man.
I think I told you, but someone said, I don't know if it was on TikTok or on Facebook, but they said that what if, because we don't really know if they grabbed it or not, but someone said, what if they still have his journal that Bryce had given Morven? Like, what if she took it back?
Oh, don't say that to me.
And like, there's a lot more fucking stuff in it where like he was actually not good, but not good because obviously all the shit he did was terrible.
He's like an anti-hero.
He was like, I feel like he was on the fence, and at the end he just chose the wrong side.
I agree.
But like, they're like, what if there's stuff in the journal of like, you know, what to do if there's no more first light, or what to do with the knife or the sword if you lose the other one. Like, I don't know. Like, what if there's extra stuff in the fucking journal?
I would love that. I would love that. I want to read that. I'm here for it. And then
you're like, I just want a compendium of just Einar's journal.
I want the Einar and Ember prequel story, how they met.
Oh no, I want the scar.
I want all of Ember and Einar. I love them. I'm like, they're my like one older couple that I just like want to know everything about. I'm obsessed with them. And I would love that. But also that just goes to show like Bryce, that's what was frustrating about Bryce in this book, is like her inability to like have foresight into like knowing he had really precious things. He probably had his notes going into his lab. Like why didn't she?
And she fucking destroyed the house and just turned it into like housing.
I know she did. Let me ask you a question. Were you?
But like, I was kind of annoyed. But like, does she still have the papers? I feel like Bryce and how she's kind of like Aelin. I feel like she kind of saved everything. Not saved everything, but I feel like she saved like the written research, maybe.
Really? I certainly hope she did, because he did a lot of work and it wasn't for nothing. Yeah. He was really brilliant when you think about it.
I actually didn't when I like first read that, I didn't realize like how much sense that made, because if you have something trying to make something and you have something trying to unmake something at the same time, it'll just kind of combust. I'm like, SJM, who is your scientist buddy that is helping you with
I
this?
know. I thought the
How are
same
you
thing.
thinking of this? Like, okay, chemist. The fuck?
Can I tell you something that I saw about Sarah J. Maas today that was really surprising to me? Real quick, side note, I was on line and I was watching like an interview of hers or something, and they were asking her like what book she was currently reading, and it was a paranormal horror book. And that really surprised me. I was like, so SJM's over here reading paranormal horror. Like, why does she want to read a horror book?
Well,
You know,
that's
so
where
I'm
she
like,
gets all her creatures from, apparently.
yeah. Oh, apparently.
The
Did you
fucking
know that?
Ritterak, Braxis, fucking Vesperus is probably like Lady Dracula. Fucking
Yeah. It was so funny to me but it just goes to show, like, I would love to know. I want to sit down with her and just have a conversation, be like, where do you get your inspiration from? Or like, where do you pull the made and unmade? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that
Like,
they would equal each other
that
out.
was like honestly kind of brilliant. I was kind of
It's
impressed
super,
with that.
it's very brilliant. She's
That's
very
why I
smart.
That's why I don't know what to rate this book, because okay, the first time I read it, I was like, "Ugh, that was so underwhelming. I'm so annoyed, blah blah
Yeah.
blah." But like the little scenes, like in the little stuff like this, and it's like there's so much detail, and it's like, why couldn't you just give us like the answers we needed and then also done all this awesome, scientific stuff? Like it would have given it more depth.
100%. So you still haven't rated it yet? No.
I don't but
I'm finishing the audiobook, but I agree with you on that point, because if she had just answered, even put in like two of our questions, or just a couple, along with this book, it would have made everything so much better.
Can I actually, after I read that, can I just say that the Star Sword and the knife are both in Prithian now? And Nesta has the 8-pointed star. And I don't know, you might get your wish of some half-assed Koshi war where they just send him through a black hole like the Asteri.
I'm not. No,
you're like,
I don't.
Just stab him and send him through the black hole. I'm done with his ass.
I just want. I know. No, I want her to flush out Koshi, because up until this point, he's like the biggest wah wah to me.
Because
Like
the Asteri, like the black hole
Koshi.
thing was brilliant, but then like it's also underwhelming at the same time.
But that was the problem with CC3, is she has these brilliant moments, but then it just like falls flat. It falls flat. The Hunt being a test tube baby. What the hell was that? I won't even go into it on this. You loved that?
I did, because I love like mushy parts first and foremost, and the fact that he had a dad that actually like cared about him but had like died before his birth, and like did all of this to try to save them from the Asteri, which is why Hunt became like his dad and he wanted to do all the rebellions and all of this stuff, because he was a part of his angel father despite also being a prince of hell. It was like nurture versus nature and all this stuff, but like, and they were like, yeah, like your dad was a good man and you're still a part of them despite having our essence. And I don't know, I thought that was really cute. I thought it was really cute.
I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that you enjoyed it. Like, I don't know.
And like the whole fucking thing about like Adis being like, Thanatos, like, stop fucking sniffing her starlight and shit. And he's like, oh, I want to eat you or whatever. But then like Apollyon's like, oh, my son. And then Thanatos is like, he's my son. And like Thanatos is like the worst one. And he's like, no, he's my son. But then he was also still fucking pissed at Bryce for killing his dogs.
Was he still pissed at her for that? I haven't got to that point yet.
He was pissed at her. Adis was like, stop sniffing her and like put a sock in it. He was pissed.
He was like trying to kill Bryce and eat her.
Oh yeah. 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 And Apollyon was like, he's so dramatic. He's just pissed that you killed his dogs. He's still pissed you killed his dogs.
That's hilarious. And I love that, that Thanatos lays claim to like Hunt. He's like, he's mine. He's my son. Don't claim him.
He's more mine. And then Hunt is like, I didn't take you for an engineer.
I love that.
They're so cute. But anyway, back to the point about Elaine. So,
about Elaine.
Do you think it can unmake things? Well, yeah, it says the knife can unmake things, but we never, like, we don't get it unmaking things on its own yet. And technically, we don't have Gwydion making things on its own either.
No, nothing's. So what you can like infer from that, right, is that maybe they don't have the right owner. Is that what that means?
Well, I mean, technically it would be Nesta, according to Bryce, because she gave her Gwydion, she gave her Truth Teller, and she's like, you have the 8-pointed star for a reason. Go figure out why. That's why I think that, like, the lands are going to choose her.
They're going to choose her. She's going to use Gwydion.
She's going to get the power
things
from being a high lady or queen, whatever. Because Dusk technically has a queen. She would technically be a queen. With this queen of queens. He was talking about Thea.
Huh. What? I'm so... Here's my problem, though. Why would she make Nesta a queen before she makes Feyre a queen?
Because Feyre does not have the capability of being.
Well, that's that's our personal opinion, but canon is that like Feyre's SJM's favorite.
Because even her mother treated her that way. Oh, you're gonna marry a prince. You're gonna marry a prince. You're gonna marry a prince. Because technically, at the time, if the mother is alive and the mother sees herself as a queen, she would see Nesta as a princess who deserves to marry a prince.
Yeah.
So if the mother isn't alive, Nesta's the oldest. Nesta would become the queen. Which just goes back to their fucking mother, but that's
a whole other podcast. So why
so like I don't know if Elaine's gonna try to use it to unmake herself, but it says Feyre says in Akaward, the cauldron. The cauldron was fading away, going somewhere. Nesta was already moving, sprinting for where we'd heard that voice, luring Elaine out. I knew how it had done it. I had dreamed of it. Grayson standing on the edge of the camp, calling to her, promising her love and healing. And also, I just want to make note that I totally forgot this line and the way that my fanfic is called A Court of Love and Healing, and now I'm kind of mad. Because no, it's not fucking Grayson.
Don't even associate it with that because it's a great title either way.
And then when Elaine is questioning Amren, she says, could you have done it, decided to take a male form? Yes, before in my other form, I was neither, I simply was. So that's the thing where I was like, maybe, I don't know. The archangels have genders.
They do have genders.
So
They do have genders.
But the death gods don't, technically. Well,
yeah. Lanthes was kind of a I thought it was a man, but
he was a mist. He was a mist.
Metro.
He was a mist. Yeah, he like
a Metro vibe from him.
He's
kind of like a fluid from
Lanthes and Bryaxis were like mist and shadow, and they just could like take whatever form they wanted. It was weird.
It was really weird.
So maybe Amren's just a death god. Again, it's so fucking confusing. It doesn't make sense. It's
so confusing. It does not make sense.
Why did you pick this body? I was more drawn to the female form. I thought it was more symmetrical. It pleased me. More frowned down at her own body. True. Cassian snickered. Elaine asked, once you were in this body, you couldn't change. Amren's eyes narrowed. I straightened, glancing between them. Unusual for Elaine to be so vocal, but she'd been improving. Most days she was lucid, perhaps quiet and prone to melancholy, but aware. Elaine, to my surprise, held Amren's gaze. Amren said after a moment, are you asking out of curiosity for my past or for your own future? The question left me too stunned to even reprimand Amren, the others too. Elaine's brow furrowed before I could leap in. What do you mean? There's no going back to being human, girl, Amren said, perhaps a tad gently. Amren, I warned. Elaine's face reddened further, her back straightening, but she didn't bolt. I don't know what you're talking about. I had never heard Elaine's voice so cold.
A foreshadowing there if we have ever seen it. Why else would she include that conversation there?
I don't want her to be human. I don't want it. I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't need it. I can't.
I agree. But, and I find it interesting that like Amren can see where Elaine's mind is going, where her thinking is going. Like Amren knows. How does Amren know that?
Oh, the wind whispers and the stone speaks and blah, blah, blah. It's like she knows shit.
How does she know that Elaine wants to be? I mean, I guess it's pretty obvious, but
yeah.
At the
I
same
mean, the
time,
cauldron took her because like Grayson came for you like the puka. But
crazy.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's super weird. What else could possibly be unmade though? Like that's the thing is that
unless she's going to do like there's not really a trope, but I've seen a couple fantasy shows and there's been a couple where, you know, people ship characters, right? And for whatever reason, they can't really be together, whether it's a vampire and a human or, which is the most common one, right? Or like a werewolf and a human or like, you know, something like that. And so, you know, oh, we can't be together and I can't kill you and all of this stuff, right? And so they eventually figure out how to be together. But then there's always like, as you said, the third act breakup or whatever. So I'm wondering if Elaine is going to make herself human again. Try to live a human life, right?
Oh my
Find out
God.
that like, actually, I was way better as a fae. And like, I want her to kind of miss her mate bond with Lucien.
Yeah.
Or maybe she runs into trouble as a human. Technically, you can be bonded to a human, so I don't think I don't think it would take care of the bond the way that Elaine would probably think it would. Because Rhys was bonded to Farah as a human, right? Like
Cassian was bonded to Nesta as a human.
Yeah. And so like I feel like maybe she runs into trouble and Lucien saves her and then she's like, shit, I'm human, I can't be with him anymore, I fucked up. Well, you have Gwynriel now, so let's just re-stab you again and remake you again.
She could. It would be, she could.
I don't know if it would have to do with the knives, but like technically.
Okay, so can I just tell you something kind of unhinged?
Or she just does the whole shape-shifting thing and she shifts into a human, like we thought.
And visits Grayson, maybe. She's like visiting Grace, like, look at my ears. They're not pointed. I'm not.
You'd be like, you're fucking glamoring me again, bitch.
I know. Okay, so can I tell you something that's like really crazy and a little unhinged that I just thought of when you were talking about?
Go.
I love it. When you were talking about the Gwydion and Truth Teller making unmaking things, right? Have you ever seen the movie, the Disney animated movie Hercules? And okay.
No, I have seen some of like clips of it, but I have not. No.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it because
I've seen clips.
Okay, I don't know if you've seen the clips. So they're in hell, right? There's the three fates. There are these really ugly, gross, like one, you know, they're missing eyes and they share an eyeball and they give it to each other.
Kind of like Clotho.
Kind of like Clotho. So there's these three fates, which I don't know, reminds me of the three goddesses.
Yeah.
And they have this pair of scissors. And what their job is they take the strings of life from the
spinner of fate and the allottor and the cutter.
Yeah. So they have this string, right? And this is someone's lifeline. This is how long they're living. And they're sitting there and they're like, it's your last day. And they snip the string and then the soul screams and it like descends into hell.
Yeah.
So this to me has me thinking that she's gonna take this mate bond and those two weapons, and Elaine's gonna sever her and Lucian's mate bond. And I'm concerned about that. I'm really upset about it.
I mean, I don't know.
Right?
Because technically you would have to sever both ends of it.
Well, if they don't start making progress here, right? Where they're both uncomfortable. That and they said like
Well, because even
tuggy.
Amren knowing all about that stuff was weird to me. But literally, even Amren says like nothing can remove that bond. Nothing.
Don't you think it's weird how many times though everyone's like nothing can end a mate bond, nothing can change a mate bond?
Well, Hybern tried with the cauldron itself. It wasn't even just weapons made from the cauldron. He used the actual cauldron to try to sever Phazan's, and it didn't work.
I don't think he used the actual cauldron. I think he used his magic.
No, he did. But his magic was connected to the cauldron because it was white. Remember, when his actual magic is black, when he's connected to the cauldron, his magic is white and super strong, which is why he could leash Tamlin and the others and Rhys as a High Lord. So I don't think, like, if the cauldron can't fucking sever it, the weapons aren't gonna sever it. She's gonna think that turning human is gonna sever it, and it's just not. I think that's gonna be hilarious if she tries that, honestly. But did you happen to see? Go ahead.
I'll tell you something. If Elaine tries to sever her and Lucian's mate bond, I'm done with her character. Like, honestly, she's such a spoiled little brat. I'm just gonna say that. I know you love her. I know you love her.
I will take him.
I would take Lucian in a heartbeat. I would do anything for that guy.
But going back to Nesta and Dusk, I have the two quotes here.
Okay.
So, she found nothing but open curiosity on Nesta's face. Nesta said, "The scar your light comes from. It's shaped like an 8-pointed star. Why?" Bryce peered at where the light was muffled by her t-shirt. "It's the symbol of the Starborn." "And the magic marked you in this way?" "Yes. When I revealed who I was, what I am, to the world, I drew the star out of my chest. It left that scar in its wake." She glanced to Azriel, "Like a burn." His face was an unreadable mask, but Nesta asked, "So you have a star within you? An actual star?" Bryce shrugged with one shoulder. "Yeah. I mean, not literally. It's not like a giant ball of gas spinning in space, but it's starlight." I'm telling you, Nesta's gonna get it. And the next quote is when we get to chapter 100 of Hofas. Everyone's there, and she says goodbye to like Ember, and there's that whole scene that I love, or whatever. And I will admit, to my own detriment, that there is a part in that scene where Bryce is really mate coding Nessian, and I was getting kind of annoyed.
Wait,
she was like,
what?
Where she was like, you know, the I forget how she describes him, but she's like, she knows that the male would have stepped in front of him if she tried anything or whatever, like any good mate would. And like any good mate would, he knew when he wasn't wanted around. So he went over to the other side of the room and decided to pretend to read some old age manifesto or whatever. And I was like,
wait, was that in the bonus chapter?
No, that was in the book.
It was.
Which is
what chapter was that?
Weird because like 100. It's like it's so like when they're eating the chocolate cake and she comes back and she gives everything back and that whole thing, and she's like, she knew that he would jump in front of her if blah blah blah, and she's like, just like she knew that's why Hunt just stepped behind her because like the two whatever. So anyways, she's like leaving, and it says, Bryce offered the blade to Nesta. The female took it, blinking. "You said that you had an 8-pointed star tattooed on you, and you found the chamber with the 8-pointed star in the prison, too." Nesta lifted her head. So I want you to take the star sword." Bryce held the blade between them. Gwydion, whatever you call it here. The age of the Starborn is over on Midgard. It ends with me. I don't understand. Bryce began backing toward the portal, taking Hunt's hand, and smiled again at the female, at her mate, at their world, as the northern rift began to close. I think that 8-pointed star was tattooed on you for a reason. Take that sword and go figure out why.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun! But why? From the bonus chapter to Bryce being like, her mate, they smell like mates. He's her mate. He would jump in front of her. And like, the fuck he wouldn't. He already proved that. No. But he was like getting all rigid because she like took the star sword out and he was like,
My man.
okay, so he would protect her from getting stabbed, but not screamed at, apparently.
Oh, Cassian, I knew it.
And also, you said you didn't like how Bryce was in this book, so out of character.
Come on, you have to admit, Bryce was not Bryce in this book.
No, but so that's why it was weird. Like, she didn't even know Cassian. She's like any good mate. Like, any good mate. Like, shut the fuck up. You don't even know him. You don't know him.
Oh my God,
you can just sense that they smell like each other. Or like, what if they were just fuck buddies? Like,
no, Melanie, because they're mates, and she had to make a point of telling everyone, like people like you, naysayers.
unfortunately, she also had to make a point in the interview of saying she might dabble with the rejected mate trope.
She did say that, and that has me worried. But you do bring up a good point. So what happened from chapter 100 to the bonus chapter, unless it was just the mask? You can't tell me that he's just pissed at her because of the
he's
sword.
The most furious at me of everyone.
There's got to be something else. She's not wanting to have babies, or they pushed their mating ceremony, or there's something else going on to make him
like
pissed.
Okay, anyone in your family hopefully would not want you to get stabbed. So I don't see that as like, I mean, I guess it could be a mate thing. Like he saw her.
It's totally a mate thing.
But like, Azrael tried to protect her from the mask, so.
But he was like instinctually stepping in front of her. I don't know. And then he like went and read an old manuscript. They're mates. She better not reject that mating bond. I would be okay with the third act breakup if they reconcile. Those are my stipulations. That's it.
They reconcile.
Hey, like I'm okay if she like knocks Cassian down a little bit just to bring him back up. So that's
hold on. I get it.
What? I know. What are you gonna say now? Where are you bringing up?
I have to fucking pull this up real quick. Okay, hold the fuck up, because I was honestly getting kind of annoyed when
the quote.
It's not that I don't like Nessian. I did in Akawar. I just don't.
They were
since
fantastic.
Akasiv.
They were fantastic. Akawar was like their peak. That bonus chapter with them.
I feel like
an Ember, so good.
I feel like Cassian is the gruffer version of Hunt, and that's why she was kind of in tune to him, because Bryce is like, Cassian grinned, and well, Bryce could see why Nesta might be into a male who looked like that. Like, he's Hunt. That's why.
Oh, hey.
Maybe we'll meet again one day under less strange circumstances. And then she's like, and then Ember and Nesta have their whole crying and hugging session. And then it says, those tears were gone when Nesta met Bryce's stare, and Cassian, like any good mate, sensed when he wasn't wanted and walked over to the fireplace to pretend to read some sort of old-looking manuscript. Bryce knew that also, like any good mate, if she made one wrong move, he would rip her to shreds, which was precisely why Hunt had come back into the room and was watching Nesta very carefully. And then Nesta goes, alpha holes.
I I love alpha. Give me all the alpha holes.
Nesta, alpha holes. Nesta echoed, eyes gleaming with amusement. Bryce chuckled and drew the star sword. Again, Cassian tensed, but Bryce just offered the blade to Nesta. Oh, he tensed, but he didn't run over.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me. There was still a reaction there,
But Bryce
okay?
is into Cassian because Cassian is the fuck up version of Hunt. Literally, as an Illyrian, he's the fuck up version of Hunt. Because the Illyrians are the fuck up version of Angel.
I love it.
They are the same, like, tan skin, shaggy black hair. They're the same fucking person.
Hey,
except Hunt is just more lovable.
He is. Was there like a height comparison between the two of them? Do you know?
No, I was mad.
I want to see like how they measure up. Are they the same height? Are they as big as each other? Are their muscles as big as each other? Like, I want to know all of it.
I also love how Bryce, which I don't think I caught that before.
What?
Ember says, Nesta's mate said, "You have 1 minute before Rhys gets here and explodes." Oh, Rhys will be fine, Cassian, Ember said in the phase language. At Bryce's shocked face, Randall said in the same language, "It got too hard to mime everything. They gave us the bean thing that they offered you." And then Bryce shook her head. Rhysand will be fine, the guy who brings darkness incarnate, and then she gets cut off. He and Randall bonded about being overprotective dads, Ember said. So now Rhys knows exactly the sort of shit you like to pull, which apparently you pulled here too. And then Bryce gives Nesta back the mask. But then Bryce drew Truth Teller, and Cassian looked like he'd jump between her and Nesta. Hunt set his feet into a fighting stance in response, but Bryce just said alpha holes and laid the dagger on the table. They were like, they're the same fucking person.
Like, can I just be in that room? Because that's like awesome. I want to be there.
I would like to apologize again for my daughter's behavior.
Who'd she say that to?
Ember said that to Nesta. But it says, so she says, "Poor Nesta's been in the doghouse since you took their weapons and dumped us here. I tried telling Rhysand and Azriel how there's no stopping you when you've got your mind set on something. And I think Feyre, Rhysand's mate, believed me. But, ... I apologize again for my daughter's behavior." So Feyre's the one that fucking calmed him down.
But ... what?
She doesn't finish, of course.
I hate when she does
Great,
that.
thanks for that. Shall we? They're truly gone then. Yes. And then, yeah. "Despite the fact that my daughter lied and schemed and basically betrayed us, tell us how you really feel, Mom." But Ember continued looking at Nesta. "I'm glad of one thing, that I was able to meet you. Next time I take on an intergalactic evil, I'll try to accommodate your bonding schedule, Mother." Ember looked at Bryce, glaring. "You and I are going to have words when we get home, Bryce Adelaide Quinlan." "Your mother loves you," Nesta said quietly, reading the exasperation on Bryce's face. "Don't for 1 second take that for granted. I'm lucky. I've always been lucky to have her as a mom." Ember really looked like she might cry now, especially as she turned back to Nesta and said, "This time with you was a gift, Nesta. It truly was." She pulled her into a tight embrace, and Bryce could have sworn something like pain and longing crossed Nesta's expression, like she hadn't experienced a mom hug for a long, long time.
I love that.
I can't. They have to come back. And I don't want the guys to come back and bond over the females, because fuck you.
I thought the same thing when I
Fuck
went
you,
back.
Cassian and Randall and Rhys.
I was really surprised by Randall's behavior and really disappointed. Because here he is, he sees how Rhys is treating Nesta, and he takes his side by bonding with him.
I didn't notice this. Maybe
What?
maybe we'll meet again under whatever circumstances. I hope so, Randall said as he passed by where Ember and Nesta were still hugging, and he clapped the latter on the shoulder with fatherly affection.
I have to see them all together again. Is this really all of the crossover we're gonna get? This is it?
She's like, I might want to open the gates. And like, honestly, I don't need a Tog crossover. I need more of the ACOTAR crossover.
You know what? I have to admit, like, I would be fine with just ACOTAR crossover.
Amber put a hand to Nesta's cheek and whispered, "You'll find your way."
Oh,
bitch! Oh, I can't. I can't. And also, Ember, her fucking secrets. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
I know. You'll find your way.